Exhausted from the battle, the guy with the short blade stood in the path of the huge beast waiting for the moment. As soon as the monster jumped towards him, the guy managed to dodge it. Moments before, information about this thing had popped into his head. Based on the memory he received, he learned that he was on a planet called Blue Star. The Blue Star, the year 2200, many spatial rifts suddenly began to open up around the world. Countless, strong and ferocious monsters emerged from these rifts. These monsters were strong enough to inflict devastating damage on humans, gradually destroying civilization. Suddenly, while fighting them, they began to notice that they could absorb a mysterious substance dissociated in the air, life energy, to transform themselves, gaining extraordinary power in the process. These people began to be called warriors. With the help of warriors, people were able to build bases in the wasteland in order to survive and continue fighting monsters. In a past life, he died after being eaten by a mob of zombies. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he was in this world full of martial artists and ferocious creatures. The monster attacked the guy again, but he managed to block its jaws. The guy began to panic as the monster was giving off a strong electric current because he would die if he touched it. Due to the guy's lack of strength, the monster started to prevail, breaking forward, but the guy bounced to the side. This caused the monster to fly forward and crash into the trees, creating a massive electrical explosion. Due to the failed attack, the monster found itself pinned to the ground by the trees that had fallen on it. The boy took advantage of the situation and pounced on the immobile beast. But to his regret, nothing came out, and the knife in his hand was in a terrible condition. The guy was forced to admit that an ordinary man was unable to stab this monster. Besides, a few painless attacks were able to completely drain his body's strength. After a few moments, the monster managed to free itself from the wood captivity and roared loudly. The guy thought about the fact that this body didn't have any cultivation talent, causing him to assume that the original owner of the body had long since given up on himself, refusing to give up at every opportunity. That's why he went into the forest with only one short blade. To say it was for hunting was almost suicidal. The beast opened its maw filled with ghastly fangs and attacked the guy again. But the man wouldn't back down anymore. He shouted that he didn't want to die, and since he had already taken possession of the body, he would see to it that he lived well. He noticed that the monster's belly was not covered in long hair, nor did the electric only cover that part of the body, which led him to believe that this was the monster's vulnerable spot. It was where its life force was located. His life depended entirely on this final blow. Just as suddenly, the monster turned into a mess just because of a single blow. The girl who killed the beast asked Chumo to get out of this forest as soon as possible. Chumo immediately realized that this was the childhood sweetheart of the original body owner, Chen Siwei. Suddenly, he remembered some scenes from the original owner of the body. Seeing how well Chumo and Chen Siwei get along, their parents decided to get them engaged. But one day, their parents died while hunting. Chen Siwei told him that from now on, the two of them would depend on each other in this world. In the next memory, Chen Siwei gave him meat, telling him that some beasts were rumored to have treasures that could change a person's body. She could already hunt on her own, hence she promised that she would definitely find a way to awaken the powers in him as well. Chumei knocked the meat out of Chen Siwei's hands and asked her not to pretend to care, then added that she was not his fiancée. Chuma blurted out that if Chen Siwei's parents hadn't called his parents to go hunting, he wouldn't have been left alone. Chumo was astonished. He couldn't understand how the original owner of the body could treat his fiancée, who had always only thought of his well-being, like this. Suddenly, Chen Siwei awed and began to sway, barely standing on her feet. Chen Siwei's condition had worsened because her body had expended too much energy during the previous hunt. Chen Siwei was already at her limit, causing her to be about to faint, but Chumo picked her up, helping her not to fall to the ground. Seeing the condition she was in, Chumo assumed that she had been seriously injured during the dangerous hunt, and once she found out that the original owner of the body had gone out hunting alone, she rushed to rescue him without any treatment. Chumo asked if she was all right. Hearing this, Chen Siwei felt relieved. After all, Chumo hadn't spoken to her for so long. Chen Siwei replied that she was fine. She then said that when an electric sable dies, it emits an odor that only its kin can hear. Preparing for another battle, Chen Siwei told Chumo to leave before the electric sable's kin came to avenge them. Chumo heard a sound and asked Chen Siwei what it was. Immediately after, the kin of the slain beast came out. A pack of electric sables simultaneously attacked the killers of their counterpart. Chen Siwei shouted for Chumo to leave quickly. and she herself rushed towards the electric sables. Striking the sables, Chen Shui created a tremendous explosion, an explosion that threw several sables back into the trunk of one of the trees. But Chen Siwei was not left in one piece either. Chumo rushed over and caught Chen Siwei taking the damage from the collision with the tree, after which he turned to Chen Siwei. But seeing the state she was in, he realized that she had lost consciousness. Meanwhile, electric sables surrounded the two of them. Chumo mentally cursed because of the situation they were in. Chen Siwei's strength had already reached the level of a warrior, but even so, she was no match for these things. Thinking about what he could do, Chumo agreed that his body didn't stand the slightest chance. The worst thing he thought for himself was that he was dragging others with him to the other world. He wondered if he would die like that right after he was reborn. He said to himself, no. He knew there had to be a way, for he couldn't die so easily. After which he reached back and accidentally touched the dead sable as he suddenly heard an unknown sound. In turning around, he saw the interface. Chumo wondered what that thing was. After which the collection system was activated. Chumo was trying to figure out what the system was collecting. After all, it was just the corpse of a purple electric sable. Just as suddenly he saw the information that it was a level 1 medium ferocious beast and that collecting was possible. The electric sables tore towards Chumo, and the latter shouted that he didn't have time to study this. After all, whatever it was, it couldn't be worse than the current situation. Chumo shouted, "Gather!" Immediately afterward, the system replied that the gathering had been successfully completed and he had received the secondary talent of Thunder attribute. The system asked if he wanted to use it. Chumo shouted yes without a second thought. Immediately after which, a strong discharge of electricity rushed through his body, causing him incredible pain. It then exploded with electricity, and the monsters closest to it took damage. Chumo felt that he had obtained an improvement talent from this beast. While he was thinking, the electric sables attacked Chumo. But he grabbed his blade, and lightning fast he dealt with the attackers. After which, he felt more and more strength begin to gather in his body. Seeing this, the electric sables were furious, causing them to all attack Chumo at once. Meanwhile, Chumo noticed that the pain from his wound had already disappeared, and his movements became easier. In addition, the attacks of the purple sables had become much slower, and the fur was no longer so indestructible. Slashing the monsters, Chumo realized that he was finally able to slash these beasts. He knew that he had a duty to deal with them in order to protect Chen Sui. Jumping towards the enemies, Chumo shouted and dealt with each of the sables with lightning speed. Glancing back, he saw the smoking purple sables and the trail of his attack. Chumo said that although he didn't know to what degree the strength had reached after the talent fusion, but he had succeeded. Suddenly, an interface once again appeared in front of Chumo. It said that the master's basic strength was 1527 Jin, and the increased strength of the master's attribute, Thunder, was 3089 Jin. Chumo smirked, because 3000 Jin was already the middle stage of a warrior's strength. Because of this, he was forced to admit that the talent of the Thunder attribute was truly terrifying. Chumo was pleasantly surprised since he had only just been reborn, yet his base strength had already reached 1500 Jin, and after using the power of Thunder, it more than doubled. He felt that his body had become much stronger after the fusion of talent. As the system suddenly examined the target and suggested Chumo to continue collecting, which pleasantly surprised him, because he could collect several times per corpse. And since that was the case, he didn't hesitate to arrange the gathering, through which he obtained the blood essence of the purple electric sable. Sable blood is an excellent thing that can accelerate the body's hardening speed. Although it was the lowest level, it was the best option for Chumo's body right now. Chumo decided to try to collect another one, but the system notified him that the resource of this target was exhausted and could no longer be collected, and that he could only collect the resources of one target per month. The resources that can be collected are combat skills, talents, physique, blood essence, and other things that the target had when he was alive. Chumo was frustrated because of the gathering limit, because the purple electric sable is very weak. He would have to choose the following gathering targets more carefully. Now he should take Chen Shiwei home. Chumo said that the sable resources were completely exhausted, and since that was the case, it would be a good idea to harvest the meat from them. Chumo carried Chen Shiwei home and laid her on the couch. Meanwhile, Chen Shiwei dreamt that they were attacked by a pack of purple electric sables. Chen Shiwei asked Chumo to leave, but he shouted that he didn't need her concern. immediately after which he was grabbed by one of the sables. The sable began to devour Chumo's body, which Chen Siwei watched in horror. Chen Siwei abruptly woke up and shouted the name Chumo. Afterwards, she noticed how bad her headache was. A few seconds later, Chumo brought a plate to the table and noticed that Chen Siwei had already woken up. He then told her that the soup was almost ready and that they could have a bite to eat. After a while, the table was covered with appetizing dishes. Chen Siwei wondered if Chumo had prepared all of this, after which she remembered and asked how they had gotten here yesterday. Chumo asked what it was she was after all. He had gotten them out of there, and suggested that she put those questions aside for now. He suggested that she eat first. After all, beast meat was very beneficial to a warrior's body. After which he wished Chen Siwei a pleasant appetite, causing her to blush. Chumo and Chen Siwei sat down at the table, but Chen Siwei was in no hurry to touch the food. Chumo noticed what an awkward atmosphere was hovering here, and thought about what to say to her. After which, he told Chen Siwei that yesterday was very dangerous, but fortunately, they were saved by a passing expedition. Without saying anything, Chen Siwei took up her chopsticks, making Chumo assume that she didn't care at all. He concluded that Chen Siwei was just uncomfortable with his presence. So he told her that he had already eaten and was leaving for his room, and asked her to wash the dishes after she finished. Chumo asked Chen Siwei not to be shy, as the beast meat would help her heal her wounds. Chen Siwei was surprised by what Chumo said. She wondered, was this really not a dream? After all, Chumo had prepared something for her for the first time in a long time and was also talking to her. If this was indeed a dream, then Chen Siwei would prefer to never wake up for the rest of her life. Entering his room, Chumo leaned against the door and sighed loudly. He thought about the fact that the relationship between Chumo and Chen Siwei has reached a freezing point. They don't know how to communicate with each other and don't immediately find common ground. In the end, he decided not to think about it, because to survive in the future, he must not rely on any but himself. The most important thing for him now was to improve his strength. Chumo implanted the essence of beast blood into his body to purify it. Immediately afterward, all the veins in his body swelled, and he fell to his knees in unbearable pain. Chumo did not expect that the sensation of the beast essence acting on his blood would be so unpleasant. After starting to refine the essence, he was going to focus on training to fully refine himself. A month later, Chumo once again entered the training room. Chumo slowly sighed and released a force of electricity. Then he punched his fist into the air, channeling electricity into the pile of stuff. The electricity destroyed everything in its path except the plant in the vase, which only had one of its petals fall off. Chumo concluded that the attack power was not bad, but controlling electricity required him to practice further. In the past time, Chumo had fully internalized the beast blood essence, and he was already eager to find out what his current strength was. Calling up the interface, he saw that his base strength had increased by more than 600 jin, and the meridians of his body had also expanded greatly. Among them, the enhancement brought by the beast blood essence alone is at least 400, which isn't bad. He had been training hard all month, not counting eating and sleeping, but now was still no time to relax. Besides his lowest cultivation talent, there are warriors with more powerful talents, and those who possess these talents progress at a speed he can't even imagine. However, Chumo believes that with the constant effect of the beast blood essence flow, he would be able to enter the martial artist realm within half a year. Meanwhile, Chen Siwei practiced the same way, beating up a mannequin. Finished with the beating, she took a breath as she watched the man shudder. After that, the test dummy stopped at 8,365. Chen Siwei was not very happy with this result, as the hunting exam was only a month away, and this strength was unlikely to be enough for her. Warrior levels are divided into apprentice, warrior, warlord, patriarch, venerable, and saint. The two-headed python is an average level 2 beast, and if she is going to defeat it, she must have at least warrior level. On the other hand, the warrior herself must have at least 10,000 jin, and unfortunately, she is still far from that. A scene flashed through Chen Siwei's mind in which she failed to protect Chumo, and an electric sable pounced on him. Immediately afterward, she shouted that she would become a warrior and struck the dummy again. Chen Siwei asked Chumo to wait for her. The heart of the legendary two-headed python can change a person, therefore she must get it for Chumo. The commercial area of Luoyang Security Base. While looking over the goods, Chumo here and there heard merchants advertising the beasts and martial arts they were trading. Walking past the monster counter, Chumo turned around to look at it, but did not linger on it. Chumo examined each monster, but he didn't dwell on them since they were all only level 1. Chumo felt that it was pointless to gather all of these beasts, as their talents and body features were far worse than what he had now, which meant that he at the very least needed second-level beasts. Suddenly, a gang of people got in Chumo's way. Only upon seeing Chumo did the two start discussing the trash from their first Luyang Academy. After which, one of them asked Chumo if he was that swagger with no talent or physique. Seeing this fellow, Chumo fiddled as Jochi was in front of him. Chumo began to ask why he was glaring at them, and explained that Brother Chi was a genius of their class. His strength had already reached the peak of a disciple, and he had 6,000 jongs of strength. They also reminded them that Chumo would have been thrown out long ago if Chen Shiwei had not stood up for him. The disciples demanded that Chumo leave Chen Shiwei alone if he had any shame, because she and their brother were perfect for each other. Jochi asked Chumo what was the point of coming here in search of beast materials. Wasn't it because he had the courage to take part in the hunt? Jochi grabbed Chumo by the collar and promised that he would let Chumo see for himself how Chen Shiwei would groan in front of him. Chumo asked Jochi if the man's life had taken a turn for the worse. Jochi ripped his hand off Chumo's clothes and laughed, asking the rest of the disciples to look at the swaggering girl living off the girl showing her fangs. Chuki told Chumao to come to the hunting exam in a month, unless he chickened out, of course. Chumo felt that Jochi wanted to kill him, and since that was the case, he was going to start training as soon as possible to gain an advantage. To deal with Jochi, he can no longer target second-level beasts. He needs at least third-level beasts. The levels of beasts in the market are too low. He couldn't see the third level anywhere, which means he needs to think of another solution to this problem. Suddenly, there were shouts of, "Stramming wind returns," and Chumo saw people running to look at them, as they were rumored to have killed a level 3 beast. The warriors cried out when they saw the earth dragon itself. Moreover, it was the same beast that was rampaging north of the base. It was rumored that this beast had already reached the 3rd level, because of which it had managed to kill many warriors, and even a few warlords had been eaten by it. Chumo was astonished when he saw the swift wind warriors, for those were so strong that he could sense their aura from afar. The squad member explained to the people that all the rumors were true, and their captain was already at the middle stage of the warlord realm, which was the reason why he could hunt and kill level 3 beasts. Right now, they are currently recruiting for a squad. Those who wish to join are required to be of the late warrior stage warrior level and above. Special attribute holders are willing to make an exception, as well as everyone was amazed at what they heard, and many wanted to join the rushing wind squad. Just as suddenly, Chumo from the crowd smiled, for he had finally found his goal of the month. Some people, after seeing a level 3 beast for the first time, started asking to touch that one, and the member of the rushing wind was fine with that. Chumo realized that this was his best chance, and together with everyone else, he extended his hand towards the beast using gathering. After that, he discreetly hid what he had received under his sweater. Just by touching what he had collected, he could already feel the energy seeping into his skin. A notification appeared on the interface stating that the gathering had been successfully completed and that he had obtained an average improved physique. The system asked Chumo if he wished to start the fusion. The average physique is something that can fundamentally change the physique of normal people. Back in the training room, Chumo dared to start fusing. He implanted the dragon essence into his chest, starting the fusion. Immediately afterward, he screamed and crouched down in unbearable pain. He felt as if his bones were breaking during the fusion. Seconds later, the pain peaked and the veins on his body ballooned. As the pain suddenly began to leave, Chumo could feel a warm stream emanating from his heart, and the damaged bone meridians began to recover. After recovery, however, the strength of his body increases. All this is repeated until the body is completely reborn. Once the purification process was complete, Chumo swung his fists a few times while feeling how much his speed had increased. It was as if his body no longer had any weight. Chumo decided to hit the training dummy, but to his surprise, the previously invulnerable dummy was sealed into the wall. The improved physique was clearly worth it. After all, there was now as much power in one of his punches as there had been in 10 of his previous punches. The physique was the basis for improvement, and a good talent required a good physique. The interface brought out Chumo's calculation of his combat values. The basic strength is 2639 Jin, and the increased strength of the thunder attribute is 5270 Jin. Chumo calculated that his base strength had increased by 500, and his cultivation speed had become much faster. If this continued, he was sure that in a month's time, his maximum strength would be comparable to that of a late-stage disciple. And when the time comes for the hunting competition, since Zhou Qi decided to kill Chumo, Chumo will retaliate in kind. First, Luoyang Academy is the strongest warrior academy in Luoyang, with the strongest and most numerous faculty. Students who excel in their studies are allowed to study here until they graduate from high school. But if they fail the talent test and fail to become warriors, they will be transferred to the 5th Academy, the lowest-ranked academy. The academy holds regular hunting trials for pupils, where they will be assessed on their performance and rewarded, and today is one of those days. The disciples praised Zhou Qi, the honored genius of their class who had reached peak disciple in such a short period of time while possessing 6,000 jin of strength. Everyone thought it was simply terrifying to be able to gain 600 jin of strength in just 2 months, and were also confident that he would be able to enter the elite class upon his return. Zhou Qi asked his disciples to at least keep their cool. Suddenly, the disciples noticed Chumo and began to wonder how he even dared to come here. Zhou Qi turned around to Chumo, and the disciples began to discuss him. They were discussing that Chumo didn't have any physical talents, making it equal to suicide for him to participate in the hunt. The students began to wonder why he was still here, since he should have been sent to the 5th Academy long ago. But all the talk agreed that he was just lucky to have a fiancée, Chen Siwei from the elite class, constantly protecting him. Although sitting on the neck is a talent, but this kind of thing is still not enviable. When Chumo was nearby, Zhou Qi called out that trash. He admitted that he found it hard to believe that he had come here, and asked if Chumo really couldn't wait to see him kissing Chen Siwei. The disciples began to gather around Chumo with Zhou Qi as a truck suddenly pulled up and honked. One of the students alerted his brother that the teachers were coming. Chugi told Chumo that he was lucky and asked if he thought he could come out alive from this ordeal. The teacher shouted to the students to all gather and come up to him at their number, sign in, and get in the car. When the truck left, the teacher told them that their goal for the day was the wilderness area outside the base. The students were amazed at what they heard, because only warriors were allowed to hunt in the wilderness. Even warriors could not always survive there. And since they were not warriors, it was certain death for them. The teacher asked them not to worry as they headed north of the city, where the rushing wind squad hunted down the only ferocious level 3 beast, the Earth Dragon. The base then recruited over 10 squads of hunters to clear out, destroying all beasts above level 2 and opening a 20-mile radius hunting zone. After which, the second teacher said that this area was now only inhabited by level 1 beasts, making it an ideal place for hunting trials. After which he added that he and Teacher Lin would be with the guards. If the students were still afraid, they could get out of the car and go straight back in. He is now ready to present them with the rules. This challenge has a point system based on the strength and level of the beast killed. The first 3 places will be rewarded, nothing below 3rd place. For the 3rd place, you can get a vial with the blood of the beast of the 2nd level. You can get 2 vials of level 2 beast blood for 2nd place. 1st place will receive 3 bubbles as well as a bronze level martial arts book. The disciples were astonished when they heard about the book and blood, for these rewards were even too generous. Besides, it was obvious to everyone that only geniuses like Zhou Qi could win the 1st place. Teacher Lin introduced a communication talisman to the students and explained that they should immediately crush such a one if they found themselves in danger, immediately after which he and Teacher Lin would go to the rescue. But they shouldn't think that this talisman was given for a chance to rest, because the wilderness area is full of dangers, and they should always be careful. Teacher Lin told them that this hunting trial lasts for 5 days, and one can only go out after finishing it. The teacher asked if everyone understood this, and the students shouted, "Yes!" Unwrapping the talisman, Zhou Qi told his fellow students that they could think that the book and blood already belonged to him. A fellow student asked the boss if he would mind if they stayed close to him, but Zhou Qi asked him to get off his back. Zhou Qi wants to kill Chumo, covets Chen Siwei, the son of the strongest Zhou family. Chumo knew that the threat of Zhou Qi was too great for him, so Zhou Qi must die. To get more points, Zhou Qi would have to go deeper into the forest, and then he would seize the perfect moment. After a while, the students reached the wilderness area. Seeing the local vistas, they were delighted. Teacher Lin looked at the clock and said that it was already time. The Academy's hunt test has begun. Teacher Lin said that there are good seedlings this year. The second asked if the latter was talking about Zhou Qi and said that after all, the resources of the Zhou family were behind it. But even so, it has no competitors in its class. The first added. Teacher Lin asked Chumo if he was sure he wanted to go there. After all, there was only a 1% chance of ordinary people surviving there. After which, the other explained that a level 1 beast was clearly not something an ordinary person could fight, and suggested that Chumo think it over again. Chumo thanked the teacher for his concern and reminded him that he has a whole 1%. Teacher Lin said that there was something wrong with this boy, and the other added that this trial would be very exciting. Walking through the forest, Chumo pondered that life energy not only allowed people to gain abilities and awaken talents, but also allowed beasts and plants to mutate and grow. But with danger often comes opportunity. Hunter units, such as the rushing wind hunt in the wilderness in search of resources. Since Chumo can't find Zhou Qi, he might as well hunt wild beasts first to test his martial abilities. But so far he hadn't encountered a single beast. Chumo said, unaware that he was already being hunted. As soon as the beast approached, Chumo sensed the one and immediately dodged its attack. Chumo was attacked by an inferior beast of the first level, an iron beast dog. The usual method of hunting a beast with a high attack speed and low stamina is to circle around the beast until it is exhausted. However, Chumo said, and drove the iron-armored dog into the ground with one punch. After absorbing the blood of a beast, Chumo could possess over 6,000 jin of strength and thunder attribute abilities, which together were comparable to the level of a late-stage disciple. But an ordinary iron beast dog is no match at all. Using the gathering system on a low-level beast was too wasteful, so Chumo decided to use the blood-gathering method taught at the academy. While Chumo was collecting the blood of the iron-armored dog, more and more wild beasts began to sneak up on him. As they approached, spiders, snakes, and wolves pounced on their prey. But Chumo already knew about them and dealt with all of them in the blink of an eye. He let them become his sharpening stone. After a while, evening was approaching. Chumo had dealt with a mid-level beast, a silver-ringed shield bear. It was already the 7th one on his account. Hunting Chumo had already collected 5 flasks of beast blood, which he decided to stop at for now. Chumo only had to absorb them and rest. The beast blood was indeed worth it. Last time, it had given him at least 100 jin when absorbed. Unfortunately, he could only reuse it once every 3 days. Therefore, Chumo wished that he could use it all the time. Suddenly, Chumo heard someone's plea for help. It brought him out of his thoughts. The student yelled out that a giant berserk bear was chasing him. When he saw Chumo, he went to Chumo to ask Chumo to save him. Just as suddenly, a giant berserk bear broke the trees in its path and with a loud roar knocked the apprentice down. Chumo immediately recognized a first-level supreme beast. In the academy, there was a record that wherever these bears roamed, there was bound to be a pristine spiritual hive around them. The honey of the spiritual bees could shorten the digestive interval between consuming the beast's blood. This was exactly what he wanted. The disciple asked Chumo not to use the bonding talisman and suggested that Chumo join together to kill the bear, after which they would share the honey of the spirit beast together. Chumo didn't listen to his fellow student as he was already focused on his goal. He was determined to obtain this honey. The giant berserk bear swung its paw with ease, killing the apprentice. Chumo asked the bear how he only dared to kill a fellow student in front of him, after which he shouted that he would dissect the bear for it and attacked. The giant berserk bear was infinitely strong, and in terms of strength, Chumo was no match for it. This means that he must be as careful as possible with the bear and use electricity to wound its insides. Chumo pointed his short blade at the bear, but was unable to pierce through its thick fur. And so he used the power of electricity, then managed to harm the bear. Suddenly, the marks on the bear began to glow. Chumo realized that he was in bad shape, as the electricity and pain made the bear furious. Chumo bounced away from the bear while the bear swung its huge paw. Without the ability to dodge, Chumo took the blow with his paw, causing him to be instantly sealed into the ground. In berserk mode, the bear's speed and strength increased. Chumo realized that he lacked speed and the frequency of his attacks was too low. If things continued like this, even if the bear stopped attacking, Chumo's physical strength would not be able to withstand it. Raising his gaze upwards, Chumo was startled to see the bear paw flying towards him once again. Taking the chance, Chumo bounced to the side, avoiding the hit. Chumo realized that it couldn't go on like this. First, he needs to create an opportunity to attack. which means he has to attack the eyes of bears. After blinding the bear with electricity, Chumo immediately rushed towards it, gathering energy for the next attack. Chumo stabbed his blade into the bear's paw in order to limit the bear's capabilities. The bear roared loudly in pain, and Chumo channeled more and more electricity power into the bear's wound. But the bear wasn't going to die so easily and slapped Chumo's back. Chumo realized that this was his end. This body, that's where it ends. Except he's not willing to put up with it. Suddenly, Chumo's body felt a new wave of surging strength. Feeling this, Chumo realized that it was all about the beast blood. The blood of beasts collected directly was not as pure as the blood obtained from the collection system, causing it to only begin to be absorbed now. His body's strength began to recover quickly. It is now unknown by whose hand the deer will be killed. The bear struck Chumo as he suddenly flew out of the dust cloud and immediately rushed towards the bear. Chumo exerted all his strength so that this vile brat would finally die. Evening was coming. Chumo was trying to catch his breath after a hard battle. Chumo couldn't help but admit that a level 1 beast was indeed powerful. Just a single strike was enough to render a person defenseless. If it wasn't for the strength of the beast bloodline, the man would already be dead. Speed, however, was crucial in a battle like this. Chumo thought that if he could find a talent for the wind attribute, he would be able to compensate for his disadvantages. Also, his fighting strength would rise to a higher level. Just as suddenly, Chumo felt a familiar, murderous aura and turned around to see Jochi flying towards him. Jochi approached Chumo so quickly that he managed to surprise him with his speed. Just as suddenly, Jochi disappeared from Chumo's sight, causing Chumo to assume that Jochi possessed the attribute of wind. After looking around the battle site, Jochi recognized that there was a reason why he had sensed that there was a lot of noise. As it turned out that Chumo and his fellow disciple had encountered a giant berserk bear. Jochi assumed that the disciple and the bear had died during the battle, which meant that he had come at the perfect time, or else Chumo, the piece of shit, could get away with impunity. Chuki told Chumo that no matter how much he tried, it was all to no avail, because the latter had let him find himself. After which Jochi began to compose himself. He said that he felt sorry for the fellow student who fought hard against the bear, and Chumo took advantage of the situation to stealthily kill him. Jochi, who was passing by, happened to see Chumo's cruelty, causing him to become enraged and kill the bastard Chumo. Jochi asked Chumo, would a good story come out of this? Listening to Jochi's nonsense, Chumo did not give in to provocation and remained silent. Jochi admitted that there is no deep grudge between him and Chumo. The only problem is that Chumo is Chen Siwei's fiancé. Only with her is he lucky, but with everything else, Chumo is in trouble because he is a weakling. Chumo told Jochi that the latter was absolutely right. Jochi interjected for what he had heard. He asked if he thought Chumo would pity him for agreeing with his words. Jochi assured Chumo that there would be no mercy. Chumo interrupted Jochi, saying that the latter misunderstood him. After all, what he means is that there is no grudge between them, but Chen Siwei is his fiancé. Therefore, Chumo attacked Jochi, shouting out that he just had to ask Jochi to die. Jochi dodged Chumo, and noticing the electricity asked, "What the hell?" He asked how Chumo could have a talent for the thunder attribute. After all, it meant that Chumo had only been pretending to be an ordinary person all this time. Chumo once again chopped at Jochi, but the latter avoided the attack, forcing Chumo to admit that he was indeed fast. Jochi appeared behind Chumo and was already preparing to attack. Chumo panicked as he had no way to dodge the attack. Concentrating the wind energy, Jochi swung his blade to attack Chumo. But in response, Chumo did the same action and blocked Jochi's attack. Jochi was astonished that Chumo was able to pierce through his wind blade. Realizing that he would not be able to withstand Chumo's attack, he quickly retreated. Jochi assumed that since Chumo had managed to break his wind blade, he was already at the late disciple stage. But that was impossible, as Chumo was a recognized trash who was incapable of cultivating. Chumo explained that what Jochi sees may simply not be true. After which, Chumo asked Jochi if he could dodge his next attack and created electric discharges. In preparation for the battle, Chumo had done special training on how to accurately control the thunder talent, and now it would finally come in handy. A shiver ran through Jochi. For the control he sees, it clearly surpasses the level of a late disciple. Jochi began to run away from the spheres, jumping from tree to tree, but those spheres kept up. He shouted that even if Chumo was a late-stage disciple, it was worthless because he had a talent for the wind attribute, causing Chumo to never be able to hit him. Chumo surrounded Zhou Qi with charges of electricity and attacked him as he suddenly disappeared. And in the next instant, Zhou Qi appeared behind Chumo's back, and with a chopping motion of his blade, he shouted out that unlike Chumo, he could attack. Although Chumo managed to dodge Zhou Qi's attack, but he managed to leave a wound on his face. Zhou Qi, on the other hand, laughing madly, continued to attack Chumo with a series of blows. He shouted that it was a chasm between them and wished Chumo's trash to die. Being under the enemy's pressure, Chumo could hardly keep up with his attacks. Chumo was forced to admit that Zhou Qi was right. No matter how powerful an attack was, it was useless if it could not hit the enemy. With his speed, even if Zhou Qi would only leave a small injury, sooner or later he would crush him to death. Not only does Zhou Qi have speed, but his reflexes are also incredibly high. Seeing the wind attribute in person, Chumo only coveted it more. Chumo thought no matter how Zhou Qi moved, the last point of impact would be near, and at that moment, his trajectory could be predicted. Creating the electric bow, Chumo pondered the fact that the last time he had seen Zhou Qi was for 9 hours, and the frequency of his attacks was around 4 to 6 seconds. Based on logic, Zhou Qi's next attack should be. Chumo turned around and shot to where Zhou Qi should appear. Seeing the arrow, Zhou Qi panicked, for he would not be able to avoid this attack. Immediately afterward, he was pierced by an electric arrow. Falling from the tree, Zhou Qi shouted that this was simply impossible. Chumo was able to guess the perfect moment to fire and decided to quickly finish the job. After all, it would be bad if Zhou Qi managed to get up. Zhou Qi shouted out that Chumo was just trash, after which he wondered how could he. He was trying to figure out how he could lose to a trash like Chumo. Zhou Qi demanded that Chumo wait until he returned, and then Chumo stepped on Zhou Qi's chest with a knife in his hands, and the latter asked if Chumo was going to kill him. Zhou Qi reminded Chumo that he couldn't kill him because his father was a late-stage warrior, and if Chumo killed him, his father wouldn't let Chumo go. Realizing that Chumo was not going to retreat, Zhou Qi began to beg Chumo for mercy and offered to give Chumo something good that he had brought with him. Chumo told Zhou Qi that he was too noisy and chopped with his blade, taking his life. The interface announced that Chumo had killed Zhou Qi and asked if Chumo was going to start collecting. Chumo accepted the offer. The win attribute now belonged to him. After completing the gathering, Chumo took off first to check the attribute. He was amazed at the speed he was able to reach. Chumo felt as if his body was merging with the wind, and his speed was more than 3 times faster than before. Even the control and flexibility of his body had improved. After playing with the wind talent some more, Chumo descended to the ground right beside Zhou Qi's body. Chumo was very pleased with the acquisition, as the wind attribute was indeed very strong. Chumo reached out to Zhou Qi, wondering if he could gather something else. After completing the gathering, Chumo unexpectedly obtained a skill, a bronze-level martial skill, the Sky-Shattering Blade. Chumo wondered if it was possible that the system could collect not only talents and physique, but also the skills that the deceased had acquired while alive. Absorbing the skill, he said that this gathering system was even too powerful. The reward for first place in the trial was only a bronze-level martial arts book. Absorbing the skill, Chumo learned that the Sky-Shattering Blade had 3 levels. If you master the first level, you can cover the blade with a layer of light. And on the 3rd level, it's almost a solid blade of light. Chumo guessed that Zhou Qi was probably at the 1st level. Although his blade was only slightly glowing, but his attack power was not insignificant. If one cultivated the skill to the 3rd level, the range of the blade could reach 30 meters, making it a very good skill. Suddenly, the interface in front of Chumo reopened, notifying Chumo that the gathering target had a special item. Chumo wondered what this special item was, and he started collecting again. This time, he obtained a treasure map. Chumo was amazed that the gathering system was able to get even something like this. Bursting with curiosity, Chumo tossed the map to quickly find out what this special item was. But upon seeing the location of the object, he was shocked. After all, the special item is located in the lair of the Earth Dragon. 10,000-year-old spiritual remains have been found in the lair, and apparently there are other secret treasures there as well. Chumo couldn't believe what he saw after all. It was rumored that the 1,000-year-old spiritual remains were a treasure that improved a warrior's physical attributes. Chumo didn't even think that he would harvest this much. Behind Zhou Qi is the Zhou family, with whom he must not have any conflict right now. and therefore no one must find out that he was the one who killed Jochi. He's been here long enough. Chumo was excited because once he got rid of his body, he would have time to search for the honey of the spirit bees, and then he would find a quiet place to cultivate. But before that, he decided to see if Jochi had anything else of value with him. It was night. A light came from a hollow in the tree. After a short search, Chumo still found a hive of spirit bees and was already collecting honey. A hive of this size can only produce 250 grams of honey. This is enough to sustain Chumo's cultivation for 10 days. Along with the spirit bees' honey, Chumo had collected 21 bottles of beast blood today, including 6 bottles from the berserk bear, 8 bottles from the classmate he had killed, and 7 bottles from other beasts. Chumo thought it was strange that nothing but a blade and a pouch was found on Chumo's body. Taking a closer look, Chumo noticed that the texture of this bag was a bit like the skin of a beast. Suddenly, Chumo remembered that when he saw Jochi, he didn't have his blade with him, causing him to wonder where he had gotten it. Chumo decided to try to inject life force into the bag to open it. Just as suddenly, the bag opened up, presenting Chumo a large bag filled with beast blood bottles and purple stones inside out. Chumo rejoiced as it was a storage bag. As expected from the Joe family, normally even warlords couldn't afford such bags. Chumo reached for the primary stones. He used to be very poor before, but now he had these stones in abundance. This bag contains over 600 low-level primary stones, as well as 12 bottles of beast blood, 3 of which have reached the second level. The stone's energy can be absorbed by warriors or used as currency. Primary stones are a special ore obtained after the great change of the world, powered by life energy. Finished inspecting the wasteful Jochi's sack, Jochi gathered all the things in it, including his past sack. Chumo decided that he shouldn't flaunt such a thing. After all, not many people in their small town could afford such a thing. Now Chumo decided to try out the effects of the spirit bee's honey. As soon as Chumo began to drink the honey, it began to spread throughout his body, spreading warmth. After drinking the honey, Chumo did not feel the pain that came with consuming beast blood at all. He felt as if warm jets were running all over his body, soothing every tiny wound. After a while, Chumo finally finished cultivating with honey. Just a small amount of spirit bee honey allowed him to digest the beast blood in 3 hours, when it would normally take 3 days. Chumo thought that if he had a constant supply of this honey, he could consume an unlimited amount of beast blood. Chumo decided to continue cultivating himself throughout the night, and in the morning, he would head to the Earth Dragon's lair. The next morning, Chumo headed for the dragon's lair, and judging from the data, it's ahead. After the battle with the dragon, the place was thoroughly investigated and cleaned, causing most people to never think that there was once treasure here. The Joe family was so powerful that they managed to hide the evidence right under the investigation team's nose. The Earth Dragon Cave was much deeper than Chumo expected. Even though he had been walking for more than 10 minutes, he still couldn't see the end. Just as Chumo suddenly heard the notification, the target was at the right wall. As he touched the wall, Chumo saw his hand pass through, causing him to assume that it was a concealment technique or a natural covering. He didn't expect that the system was able to notice things hidden from view, which was a good thing. After passing through the wall, Chumo saw what he had come here for: 10,000-year-old spiritual remains. Chumo wondered what that ball hanging in the air was, and whether it could be a byproduct of spiritual remains. Examining this orb, Chumo recalled the rumors that in places where the treasures of heaven and earth were born, there were also the accompanying spirits. Chumo decided to put the orb aside and examine it later. Chumo dialed the 1,000-year-old spiritual remains in his hands and thought about how to use them. The book said that they should be impregnated into the skin. And since that was the case, he threw off his clothes and bombed into a pool of 10,000-year-old spiritual remains. Diving into the pool, Chumo felt something very strange. It was very murky, sad. It seemed as if it contained the emotions of life and death of the creatures on this earth for thousands of years, merging into some powerful force full of martial energy and flowing into the body. Very heavy, bloody, but infinitely alive. After finishing his cultivation, Chumo placed his hand on the floor to climb out of the pool as he was suddenly thrown into the air. Chumo looked at his hand and asked, "What was that?" He began to feel as if the wind attribute had completely merged into his body, causing him to almost not feel his weight. And since that was the case, what were his other talents and physical attributes? Chumo called out to the system, and the system immediately ran a host property test. Chumo had acquired a high cultivation physique, as well as high talents for the attribute of thunder and wind. What one would expect from spiritual remains? Last night he drank 4 bottles of beast blood, but it only increased his base strength by 500. But now the attributes of physique refinement were directly improved by 1 level. Even though the 10,000-year-old spiritual remains are only effective the first time they are used, Chumo decided to take some for reserve and leave the rest here, as it might be useful to others in the future. Chumo had finished all of his business before the end of the exam, which was 3 days away, which meant that he still had time to advance to the next level before the hunt was over. 3 days later, Teacher Lin said that it was time to summarize the results and ask the students who had come out to form a line, after which the teachers tallied up their points. Megan Tao got 13 points, Yuan Hanyi got 6 points, Kui Ning 21 points, Lu Chen 19 points. While the students with low scores were complaining, the student with 67 points was happy as he has a chance to take second place. Everyone expected Zhou Qi, who would probably be coming soon, to be in first place, since he was the best here. Just as suddenly, Chumo walked out of the forest, causing the disciples to shriek in surprise. Chumo asked the teachers to count his points and opened his backpack. Seeing the materials that fell out, the teachers were speechless. After a while, the teacher counted Chumo's trophies and gave him 103 points. The students immediately started discussing this. No one could believe that a trash like Chumo was capable of scoring that many points, causing them to assume that he was cheating. Teacher Lin looked at the clock and shouted that time was up and that the trial was over. After which, the disciples looked towards the forest as Zhou Qi still hadn't returned. One of the disciples wondered if he had gotten into trouble, while the others said that Chumo must have collected the leftovers after Zhou Qi. Teacher Lin asked Chumo if he had encountered Zhou Qi in the forest, to which he immediately replied no. Teacher Lin asked if he was definitely telling the truth. If so, he wanted to know where he got all these beast materials from, to which Chumo replied that of course he put it all together himself. Teacher Lin asked the other to calm down. Although he felt sorry for Zhou Qi, he was sure that there was no way Chumo could have killed him. The teacher was forced to agree to this and ventured to announce that the first place winner of this competition is Chumo. The teacher explained that the test reward would be given to them at the academy because there was a danger here that could kill Zhou Qi, making them unable to stay here for long. He ordered the disciples to get into the car immediately. When Chumo was getting into the car, Teacher Lin asked for him to linger a little longer. He reminded that Zhou Qi was dead, and at the same time, Chumo had so much loot, which meant that Chumo should realize that Zhou's family would not believe that he had nothing to do with his death. Teacher advised that Chumo should go home immediately after receiving the bounty and not leave for a while. In the evening of the same day, Zhou family home at Luyangbasi. Zhou, the head of the Zhou family, asked why he was suddenly told that his son had fallen in the hunting competition of a simple academy, and why has his corpse still not been found? Kanian, the Zhou family's early-stage warrior master, replied that this was what the academy had said. The young master's body was not found as it was probably eaten by a wild beast. But the strangest thing was that the first place was taken by a worthless person who didn't know how to cultivate. He also had clashes with the young master over a woman. Zhou was enraged to hear that a worthless person had managed to take the first place, from which he grabbed his tiger's head. After that, there was a loud sound of a skull breaking, and a few moments later, the tiger fell lifelessly beside Kanian. Kanian asked his master to calm down, but he said that there was a demon lurking in everything abnormal, and demanded that that disciple be brought to him as soon as possible. He felt that if it was really related to that child, then the secret treasure he had asked Zhou Qi to find should also be in his hands. After returning home, Chen Siwei said, but as she looked around, she noticed that no one was home. From that day onwards, Chumo started cooking her food every day. It was as if he had become a completely different person. Chen Siwei decided to practice before eating, because the hunting trials are only a month away. During this time, she must reach the warrior realm, take the first place, and get the heart of the two-headed python. Reaching the mannequin, Chen Siwei was surprised by what she saw. After all, the injuries were like electricity marks, causing Chen Siwei to wonder when she only had time to do this. Abandoned area outside the base. The system had calculated the host's combat values. Chumo's strength is 9,900 Jin, and the increased strength of the thunder attribute is 19,700 Jin. A month had passed since Chumo had returned from the hunting trial, and on the 15th day, his strength had risen to 9,900, which meant that he was only a month away from the warrior realm. But for the past 10 days, he had no improvement. Apparently, Chumo had already reached the peak disciple level and only had a narrow space to traverse to enter the warrior realm. Chumo decided to practice using a technique for a change, which was the bronze-level technique Loyan Step, the reward for the hunting trial. In order to use the technique, Chumo would need to concentrate most of the energy on his feet and disperse the rest of it throughout his body. After which, Chumo took a few steps back and forth to the south and southeast. Suddenly, Chumo carelessly twisted his leg and began to fall, but he managed to stop his fall by touching the ground. For this technique, not only does he need to control his vital energy, but he also needs to watch his breathing. The movements of his entire body and even his heartbeat accelerates because of the technique. An ordinary warrior probably shouldn't use such a technique. However, now that he had the wind attribute talent, it was as if this technique was tailor-made for him. In addition, Chumo had already found a little trick. Lo Yen's step is a bronze-level movement technique. Chumo recognized that it was indeed extraordinary. After all, its instant short-distance movement combined with the shadow effect in real combat, it would definitely give a good effect. Chumo used the Lo Yen step again and again to get used to using it. After a while, Chumo was out of breath, at which point he decided to end today's training and return home. Suddenly, Chumo felt someone else's presence. Immediately afterward, an old man landed beside him. The old man reported to Chumo that his master was inviting him to the banquet to talk. He then asked Chumo not to disregard the invitation. Chumo said that he did not know this gentleman and did not want to know, so he asked that they leave him alone as he had to go. The old man explained that his master is Zhou Cheng, who has the strength of a late-stage warrior. He can become a warlord in the future and is an influential person in the entire Luyang base. The old man asked Chumo, how dare he refuse his master? Chumo immediately realized that Zhou Cheng was Zhou Qi's father, which was not surprising since he had already guessed that they would set their eyes on him. Chumo replied to the old man that he would probably think about it if the master personally came to see him, and asked the old man who the old man even was. The old man called Chumo an ignorant brat and pounced on him and shouted that he would bring Chumo by force if he refused. Only Kanyan touched Chumo as he began to dispel. Kanyan recognized that this was indeed an amazing technique, as he suddenly remembered that Chumo couldn't cultivate. Suddenly, he saw the sword that belonged to his young master in Chumo's hands. Kanyan shouted out that his master was not mistaken, that his son's death was related to Chumo. Kanyan attacked Chumo once again, immediately after which he was at his back. Turning around, Kanyan was horrified as Chumo used the young master's sky-destroying blade skill. Kanyan managed to dodge the technique and asked Chumo as he could. Chumo said that it was a sky-shattering blade, first level. Kanyan shouted that this was outrageous and flew into the air using the flame attribute. Kanyan used the fire vulture claw skill and attacked Chumo, while asking the one how he knew the young master's technique and what he had done to him. Chumo replied that if he wanted to know about it, he could ask Master personally and attack the one with a multitude of wind blades. Kanyan asked Chumo how could his technique be stronger than young Master's if he had a similar talent. Facing Chumo's wind, Kanyan shouted that Chumo would confess everything under torture. Chumo evaluated the opponent, that early-stage warrior with the fire attribute, but at best the old man was inferior to him. Chumo's talent had reached the highest stage and his physique had reached a higher stage, so he had nothing to fear. Kanyan shouted, pouring all his strength into his blows as a gap suddenly appeared in the wave of blades. Kanyan shouted that Chumo would now see him break inward through the blade wave. After getting as close to Chumo as possible, Kanyan shouted out, "Die!" Chumo in turn chuckled and used the thunder attribute. He had finally waited for this moment. Chumo grabbed the shocked old man's face and drove him into the ground. After that, the street was filled with light due to the many directional lightning bolts. There was no point for anyone at early warrior strength to parry in front of Chumo. After all, his current strength should be comparable to that of a mid-stage or even late-stage warrior, but Zhou had already targeted him, and it was very likely that he would now attack personally. He had already been at the late stage of a warrior for many years, causing Chumo to be almost certain that he was no match for him. Chumo wanted to move from disciple to the realm of warrior as soon as possible. He suggested that perhaps he could push the limits of combat capabilities if he went into the wilderness. Warrior Supply Room. The warrior supply room is a mandatory place for warriors before they go hunting. Warriors trade materials and information here, and can also accept government or individual assignments for rewards. If Chumo is going to train in the wilderness, he will need mixtures, weapons, and survival items. Best of all, it's all about buying everything you need from one store. Jade House belongs to the famous Business Alliance. At the entrance, Chumo was met by a vendor who asked how they could help him. Chumo explained that he was going into the wilderness for a while and needed to buy some necessities. Chumo asked what recommendations they could give him about this. The girl said that in that case, Chumo had chosen the right place. After all, their store provided a full range of survival kits, from first aid supplies to all sorts of wilderness survival supplies. She said that many warriors outfit themselves in their establishment, because of which the sales are very good. When Chumo chose what he wanted, the girl said that it was all worth 600 stones. She assumed that he was definitely a strong warrior, since he could afford such a sum at such a young age. Suddenly, Chumo heard screaming. The man demanded the girl to leave him alone. He explained that the problem was not that he didn't want to help her, but that her request was too difficult. After all, the two-headed python was a level 2 medium beast, which required at least a medium-stage warrior. The girl kept begging the warrior for help. She offered to give him the beast egg and all her primary stones. As soon as he left, people started discussing the girl. The poor girl lost her parents at an early age. She was adopted a few years ago, and now her mother is sick. And to cure the illness, she needs the heart of a two-headed python. But unfortunately, quite a few people would dare to go for such a powerful monster. If the girl had a lot of money, maybe someone would dare. But she only has a beast egg that won't hatch for another 10 years. Chumo assumed that killing the two-headed python was not impossible for him right now. Moreover, he remembered that the habitat of the two-headed python was in Dashu Mountain, where he was about to go. He felt sorry for the girl, and since it was within his power, he would help her. Chumo asked the girl if her assignment was still on. With tears in her eyes, the girl asked Chumo if he was going to accept this assignment. Chumo said that he would take care of it, after which he took her hand and stroked it, and the girl began to thank the master warrior for daring to help her. Chumo asked the girl to go home and wait for his message. The people around him began to discuss whether there was really a man who would take such a mission, because it meant that he had nerves of steel, or he was just trying to calm her down. The old lady asked the mistress if they should stop this young fellow, to which she replied that since he had taken it up first, they wouldn't have to do anything now. The old lady said that this young man had a good temperament. Even though it was a thankless task, he took it up anyway, which is rare these days. 2 days later, wilderness area Mount Dashu. 20 miles away from Luoyang Base is a relatively safe area where the base's students are also regularly tested. The closest wilderness to Luoyang Base is Dashu Mountain, which is 100 miles away. It is the best place to improve training and find materials for warriors. In half a day, Chumo had already fought dozens of Iron Mantis, second-level inferior beasts, showing the effect of his training. With the increased thunder talent, Chumo's strength had reached 50,000 jin. And because of the concentrated consumption of beast blood and heavenly treasures, the somewhat fragile wind power is getting stronger and stronger. The sky-shattering blade has broken through to the second level, and Luoyan's step is on the verge of breaking through. Once Chumo broke through to the warrior realm, he would immediately start looking for the two-headed python. First, Luoyang Academy. The students were discussing whether today's meeting was the announcement of the start of the academy's main trials. They were also talking about the rumors that even the dean was coming. They then noticed strangers off to the side but decided not to contact them. Shunjin, the master patriarch and also the dean of the academy, asked the students for silence, after which he revealed that this time, the hunting trials would be different from the past ones. For this year, Luoyang Bas will join forces with Changfeng Base for a dual trial. This hunting trial is not only available to students of the First Academy, but also to other academies and martial arts schools in the base, as well as all students of the Warrior Academy in Changfeng Base. The disciples were amazed at these double trials, for the magnitude of this trial is enormous. Although these trials offer many rewards, they are also much more dangerous. The dean admitted that he knew what everyone here was worried about and said that this test would take place on the outskirts of Mount Dashu, because of which he didn't need to tell them how dangerous it was. Therefore, students are allowed to freely form teams, and at the same time, students can opt out of the exam. The dean then reminded the students that where there is danger, there is also opportunity. Indeed, both bases are offering very generous rewards in this challenge. The top 10 teams or individual participants will be rewarded with prizes that include storage bags, martial arts skills, beast blood and primary stones, among others. The elite class of the first Luoyang Academy. The tall blonde guy said that it was quite interesting and that he should get the reward. And the shortest of them all said that it was rumored that there were level 3 to 4 level beasts there and that he was accepting the challenge. Chen Ziwei was glad that Chumo did not come here, as this trial was clearly not for him. 3 days ago, she had successfully entered the warrior realm and her strength had increased greatly. Therefore, she was confident that she would definitely be able to enter the top 10, and at the same time, she would kill the two-headed python to obtain its heart. After all, that was the only way Chumo would be able to obtain her talent. Just as suddenly, Chen Siwei heard the shouts of disciples nearby. Zhu Guang, who is the genius of Changfeng Base, said that Luoyang is really empty because there is not a single person here who can fight. Changfeng's disciples mocked Luoyang's disciples and boasted that their master was blessed by the heavens. After all, his talent was the ultimate sword art, and his strength had already reached the level of a mid-stage warrior. Therefore, the Luoyang trash should be proud to be honored by their master's presence. Lu Jin's disciples asked how dare they say such things. When the test begins, they will know what it means to spew misfortune out of their mouths. Xu Guang grinned, right after which he instantly swung his blade trying to chop the Luoyan disciple. Suddenly, Chen Siwei blocked Xu Guang's blade and reminded him that fighting was forbidden in the academy. Xu Guang admitted that he hadn't expected that there were such beauties living in this backwoods. The teacher asked the students what they were doing, then ordered them to stop and get ready to leave. Before leaving, Xu Guang told the beauty that they would meet again at Mount Dashu. 3 days later, Dashu Mountain. Chumo was practicing destroying the monster hordes when suddenly thunder rumbled. That sound of thunder rumbled throughout the tired Chumo's body, which means he's getting close to breaking through to the next level. Seeing Chumo like this, the beasts attacked again and again, expecting that they could tear apart the tired victim. But the moment one crosses the barrier of the warrior realm, energy is accumulated in the body that one can't get rid of on his own, so he needs guys like this. Chumo once again attacked the monsters, releasing a huge amount of electricity. Chumo had finally broken through to the warrior level. A few moments later, Chumo was alone in the middle of the crowd of dead monsters. With the change to a new level, all foreign impurities left Chumo's body. The change purifies the entire essence, revealing a new level. The gathering system has done a calculation of the host's combat values. The host's basic strength is 1,710 Jin, while the increased strength of the thunder and wind attribute is 71235 Jin. Chumo had finally overcome 1,000 Jin and become a warrior, and after attaching the attributes of thunder and wind, he could still fight opponents at the middle warrior stage. Now he could not be afraid of Zhou Cheng, as he was almost able to resist him. But other than that, he was walking towards the habitat of the two-headed python, practicing along the way, but he didn't expect to encounter it much sooner. The huge beast was clearly attracted by the sound of Chumo breaking through. Chumo wondered, is this hulking brute really only a mid-level second level? After all, with such an aura, he was clearly close to the highest second level, which was comparable to the late stage of the warrior level. The two-headed python spat out a black jet of venom, causing Chumo to dodge. Just as suddenly, a second python head moved towards Chumo. Reacting in time, Chumo bounced off the serpent's fang and dodged the second head. At the same moment, the first head behind Chumo began to spread its poison. Chumo's business was bad, for this poisonous mist would paralyze a person. Chumo used the Luoyan step skill to avoid the venom, while pondering the fact that both of the python's heads were working in perfect synchronization. Every attack from one of the heads would cause him to move towards the other, which meant that he would no longer let the snakes take him by surprise. While Chumo was avoiding the poison, the second head swiftly reached for him, but it only managed to tear his clothes. After avoiding the attacks of both heads, Chumo began to retreat, contemplating how he could win. He realized that he couldn't move faster because it would take all of his energy. He decided that he didn't have to dodge anymore. He concentrated all the energy in his legs and used the residual energy from breaking through to the warrior realm to use the second level of the Luoyan step. The head of the python attacked Chumo, hitting the target directly. Suddenly, the python realized that it hadn't hit its victim and started looking for him. Chumo asked the python if it had lost something. Immediately afterward, he chopped off one of its heads. The python's second head began frantically twirling in pain and spewing venom in all directions. Chumo recognized that he had made a good bet by concentrating all his strength to break through to the second level of the Luoyan step. The speed of the flash had almost doubled, causing the python's vision to not even keep up with him. He is now as if invisible to the python, and he is easily able to dodge all of its venomous attacks. Suddenly appearing in front of the remaining head, Chumo offered it to eat his blade. Immediately afterward, the two-headed python lost its other head. In this fight, Chumo was only slightly frightened. Luckily, Luo Yan's step had broken through to the second level, otherwise he would have been left with nothing. The heart of the snake is for the girl's quest, and the snake's bile is useful for the body. He will also be able to collect 20 vials of blood from the snake. As a bonus, Chumo decided to take the snake skin as it could be used as a protective equipment. After collecting the trophies, Chumo chuckled as he had not fought in vain. 1 supreme level 2 beast was worth 100 inferior level 2 beasts. Since he had finished all his business, Chumo decided to return to the base. After all, in order to enter the warrior realm, he needed to procure a few techniques from the supply hall. Suddenly, he heard a plea for help. The injured student of Luoyang First Academy was running away from the sables, loudly begging for help. Just as suddenly, a blue flash flashed past her. Turning around, the girl saw the warrior cut down the pursuers with lightning speed. The girl immediately recognized the warrior, for it was Chumo, Chen Siwei's fiancé. Chumo, in turn, remembered that it was Du Jin from the elite class. He asked, "What is she doing here?" Hearing about the elite class, Du Jin shouted that they had stumbled upon the wolf chaser king. Also Shu Lei. Du Jin told Chumo that Chen Siwei was in danger and that he should save her. Chumo grabbed Du Jin's hand and asked what was wrong with Chen Siwei and what she was talking about. Du Jin wondered if this was really the same Chumo that Chen Siwei was constantly protecting. After all, he was unable to use strength. If that's the case, then how did he defeat that second-level beast? And is his strength really at the late stage of a warrior? Seeing her trembling, Chumo realized that he might have scared her. Then he let go of her hand and apologized. Chumo asked if she was okay and what had happened to all of them. Du Jin said that this year, Luoyang and Changfeng bases had teamed up to do double trials on Dashu Mountain. She and Chen Siwei were walking together, and when they were gathering wind spirit herbs, they were suddenly attacked by a pack of wolf herders. Chen Siwei protected her, and they managed to escape together, but Chen Siwei was stopped by Changfeng base genius Xu Guan and his men. Chen Siwei asked her to run to the other members of the elite class to help her, but as she was leaving, Chen Siwei was injured. Du Jin pleaded, "Let Chumo save Chen Siwei as soon as possible. She is 10 miles to the southeast." Chumo said that he would of course save Chen Siwei. He threw Du Jin a bottle of beast blood and advised him to rest to find elite class elite disciples. Immediately after that, he was speeding southeast. Du Jin wondered what was going on right now. After all, not long ago, she was very scared because of the wolf chasers. But when she saw Chumo, she felt relieved. She felt as if he would definitely be able to save her. Shiguang, surrounded by defeated disciples, blocked Chen Siwei's path. Chen Siwei was trembling because of her fatigue and also because of her wound. Xu Guang reminded the beauty that their Luoyang base was a pile of garbage. After that, he praised her as she managed to beat up his guys. Xu Guang suggested Chen Siwei to join him, because then a bright future would be waiting for her. Chen Siwei said that the one was just a lowlife taking advantage of people, and using ferocious beasts to attack stealthily had nothing to do with genius. Xu Guang laughed loudly and said that Chen Siwei was quite smart. Just as suddenly, Chen Siwei attacked the distracted opponent. Zhuxing said that she was quite stubborn and swung his sword lightning fast. Throwing Chen Siwei away with one punch, he showed her what a huge gulf there was between them. Xu Guang advised Chen Siwei to look at herself, because she looked so weak that he even felt sorry for her. So he decided to give her one last chance. Xu Guang suggested that she come to his side, but Chen Siwei clenched her teeth and remained silent, as she had no intention of joining such a person. Xu Guang revealed that ever since he awakened his talent for supreme sword techniques and took the #1 position in the Changfeng base, no one had ever been able to reject him. If she doesn't want to, he's not going to force her. He agrees to fulfill her wish and poison her to rest. Chen Siwei wondered, would her life really end like this? Suddenly, thunder rumbled and Chumo's blade appeared above Xu Guang. Chumo ordered him to take his hands off Chen Siwei. Xu Guang managed to block Chumo's attack, but to his surprise, the latter managed to move him. Xu Guang's hands were trembling. He was amazed by this man's speed and strength. Xu Guang asked Chumo how he was able to push him away. After all, he was already at the middle warrior stage. He asked Chumo who that person was, and where in Luoyang could such a person even come from. Releasing his thunder attribute, Chumo told Xu Guang that he was talking too much. Chen Siwei thought that this person had a familiar voice. Xu Guang shouted that it was impossible for him to be defeated by a Luoyang disciple and attacked Chumo with ice. Chumo mentally praised the combination of superior sword skill and ice attribute. In order to avoid this attack, he used the Luoyang step. Except there is an injured Chen Siwei behind him. If he dodges, she will get hit. Taking advantage of the wind attribute, Chumo stopped the wave of ice. But one of the shards managed to fly past and hit right on Chen Siwei's head. Chumo was startled to hear Chen Siwei, who was behind him, fall down. Chumo cursed Xu Guang for what had happened, and attacking shouted that he was no longer alive. Taking advantage of the attributes of thunder and wind, Chumo broke through Xu Guang's ice, after which he began to crowd him. Xu Guang asked Chumo, "What is happening now?" After all, Chumo was clearly not a late warrior, and their realms were as similar as possible. So how could something like this happen? Why would he be able to kill him? Chumo said that the man was talking too much, and in the blink of an eye, he dealt the man many sword strikes. With the system, talents are added to Chumo's base strength, so nothing is impossible for him. After dealing with Xu Guang, a satisfied Chumo hit his blade. He then searched him and found a storage bag on Xu Guang's body. Looking inside, Chumo couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the riches of Changfeng's top disciple. Xu Guang had at least tens of thousands of low-level primary stones and so many ferocious beast materials. Chen Siwei was injured, hence Chumo decided to give her this storage bag. The materials inside should allow her to achieve good results in the trial. However, he should get rid of Xu Guang's body so that Chen Siwei would not be in trouble. After that, he will take Chen Siwei to a safe place and find a peaceful place for himself where he can gather talents in peace. Now Chumo decided to take a look at what he could emphasize from Xu Guang. After completing the gathering, Chumo obtained the Supreme Sword Art. The system asked if he wished to begin the fusion. The next morning, Chumo was practicing with a new attribute. He could feel the breath, the rhythm, and even the aura of the sword. It was as if his sword had become alive. Just as suddenly, Chumo heard some rustling behind him. Immediately afterward, he jumped up and attacked the sable with ice shards. The Wild Cold Tribulation Thunder Sword collected from Xu Guang was really useful. The ice attribute was not his talent, but was due to his sword skills. Xumi recognized that Xu Guang was worthy of the title of Changfeng Base Genius. After all, not only was he talented in advanced sword skills, but he also possessed the Wild Cold Tribulation Thunder Sword and even silver-level martial arts skills. With the gathering system and the combination of these two talents coupled with his base strength, he could exert an influence slightly surpassing Xu Guang himself. Chumo asked the system to show him his parameters. Immediately after, the system calculated his combat values. The basic strength was 18,290 Jin, and the increased strength of the thunder and wind attributes was 7,514 Jin. The host gained the highest talent of sword wielding and also advanced to the initial level of the new skill. Chumo's cultivation effect was very good, hence he was about to return. Moreover, his sword was already worn out and he should replace it. A month had already passed since Chumo left the base. That girl must have already been waiting. 2 days later, Warrior Supply Room. The girl was waiting in the rest area for Chumo to return. Just as suddenly, she heard someone enter. Turning around, she saw that it wasn't Chumo again. The hunter explained to the girl that that boy was not coming back, as he must have died in the jungle. The two-headed python is a level 2 beast, and if it could be defeated so easily, it would already be alive. There's even a possibility that the kid made a promise to appease her and didn't go at all. The girl's hands trembled and tears came to her eyes. That hunter might really not have gone, or might have died in the wilderness because of her. But she believed that he would still come back. But if he didn't, she didn't know what she should do next. Just as suddenly, someone entered the supply room, and the hunters began to discuss the new arrival. Chumo said hello to the girl and said that he had fulfilled her order, after which he held out the python heart. The girl tearfully asked if he could really do it. Chumo replied that the task had been successfully completed and invited her to see for herself. The girl began to consider the heart the hunter had given her. But after a few seconds, one of the hunters said that the girl was obviously bad at this and offered to look over the heart instead. Immediately after which, he cried out that everything was correct. It was indeed the snake heart of a two-headed python that had only reached the highest second level. He said that now the girl's mom would be saved. The girl thanked Chumo for completing the order and held out the reward box. Chumo said that he would leave since he had completed his business here, but the girl asked for him to stop. The girl asked why he agreed, since he should have heard the first time they met that this egg hadn't hatched in over a decade and was basically a completely useless thing. Chumo replied that he did it because it was within his power to do so. The hunters began to discuss Chumo. It was really surprising that such a young hunter was able to kill a second-level, two-headed python, as he could only do so when he was at the late warrior stage. The girl hunter said that he was also quite handsome. After that, the bearded hunter admitted that he would like to hunt with him. In a perfect world, trust is a luxury. But even now, there are still people who can say things like that. Was on the strength of it. Chumo was thinking of a place where he could exchange all the materials from this hunt for primary stones, and then buy the martial arts forging methods belonging to the warrior realm, and it would be worth looking for a sword ready-made or finding someone to forge it from beastly material. The spine and scales of a python are the most excellent material for forging. The Jade House is supposed to be the biggest store in the supply room. It's rumored to have a powerful force behind it, surpassing the Luoyang base. The vendor greeted Chumo, who had returned from training, and congratulated him on his promotion, then asked him what he wanted this time. The vendor told him that in their Jade House, they sold goods of all tastes and colors at affordable prices. Suddenly, Chumo noticed. Last time, he didn't have enough level for him to realize that the ordinary vendor here was a disciple-level master. He could say that since he had already reached the warrior level, and since all the vendors are like this, it shows the level of the Jade House. Chumo explained that this time he had come to sell a batch of materials and then buy something to improve it. The saleswoman asked Chumo to follow her inside. The salesperson explained to Mr. Yang that a martial artist had a martial artist and what he had come to them for. Then the latter greeted Chumo and said that he was the appraiser of this store, then explained that he would evaluate the quality of the materials before selling. Chumo put some of the materials on the table and asked to look at them. After evaluating everything, Mr. Yang said that all the materials were good, and there were even second-level materials. He was amazed that so many materials were managed to be finished by a young man who wasn't even 20 years old. He clearly didn't dare to underestimate such a person. Mr. Yang explained that he estimated the value of these materials to be 156,000 lower-grade primary stones, then asked if Chumo was willing to sell them. Chumo said that the rumored prices of the Jade House were fair, and he had made sure of it. He said that he also needed to purchase some training items and weapons, and he wondered if their store had suitable swords or forging. Mr. Yang gave Chumo a list of their items, and admitted that he felt that if their store didn't have what he was looking for, it wouldn't be found in the entire Luoyang base. Looking through the goods, Chumo's gaze locked onto a level 3 alloy sword worth 1,000 stones, and a ferocious beast blood for 2,000 stones. He felt like he had just earned 15,000 stones, but he couldn't even afford to buy something good. After flipping through the book, Chumo said that he would take a level 3 alloy sword, a copy of the martial arts forging method, and an encyclopedia of beasts and plants. He decided to only take the essentials. After calculating everything, Mr. Yang said that the total cost was 172,000 primary stones, which meant that he still had another 16,000 to pay. As the sales clerk suddenly returned to them, she apologized to Chumo for distracting him and whispered something to Mr. Yan. After which Mr. Yang told the warrior that their leadership was inviting him upstairs. Chumo wondered why the head of the house wanted to see him, if there was no reason he should go and check it out. Chumo asked to be escorted out. After going upstairs, the saleswoman asked Chumo to go inside, as their leader was already waiting for him inside. Walking inside, Chumo saw a girl with an old woman. The old woman motioned for Chumo to sit down. Suddenly, Chumo noticed a golden symbol on her clothes. Legend has it that in the Jade Business Alliance, golden bamboo leaves indicate the level of strength. This old woman is a martial arts master with 3 leaves. In this case, the girl, the martial artist, is behaving like this is not just a store manager. The girl greeted Chumo and introduced herself as Yamo Shanshan from the Jade Business Alliance. then apologized if she had given him any inconvenience by suddenly inviting him here. Chumo said that there was nothing wrong with that. Besides, he was curious about what Madame Mo wanted from him. Hearing her call him by name, Chumo already realized that she was making inquiries about him. Mo Shinshan explained that she wanted to invite Mr. Chu to join their alliance. Chumo wondered why they suddenly decided to invite him, and Mo Shinshan revealed what she had found out about him. After which she asked not to be misunderstood, for this investigation was not malicious. The fact was that she had noticed him helping a little girl in the warrior hall earlier, which had piqued her interest. As far as she knows, all this time, he gave the impression of an ordinary person with no ability to improve, but he had managed the mission to kill a mutated high-level two-headed python, which meant he was at least a mid-stage warrior, if not higher, and he probably had a good talent. Seeing the expressions on Chumo's face, Mo Shanshan asked him not to be so nervous. After all, everyone has their own secrets, and she doesn't want to know his. Good heart, talent, and strength. No matter how you look at it, Mr. Chu is a genius. After finishing her sentence, Mo Shanshan clapped her hands together. Immediately after which, the old woman brought out a wooden case. Mo Shanshan explained that the Jade Alliance is always looking for talented people. This level 3 sword is made from the bones and blood of a level 3 beast, which is much better than the level 3 alloy he chose. A precious sword for a hero, it is perfect for him. Chumo thanked the lady for the invitation and added that he was already used to being free and not being bound, so he had no intention of entering into any alliance yet. Mo Shinshan asked her not to be in a hurry to refuse her. After all, in this world, only weirdos don't want to be bound, and they certainly won't force him to join the Jade House. But still, they could cooperate. Her Jade House is a branch of the Jade Business Alliance. Headquartered in Jinling, thousands of miles away from Luoyang Base, this power surpasses all Luoyang bases. If Mr. Chu agrees to join, they will allocate him a certain amount of stones every month, provide him with special purchases, and the right to explore treasures together. He will also be able to use 20% discount when buying any resources in the Trade Alliance. The condition is to complete at least one alliance task per year, and of course, he has the right to change it. Mo Shinshan asked Mr. Chu what he thought about all of this. Hearing Mo Shinshan speak in a related manner, Chumo realized that these were the methods the Jade House used to attract the talents it liked. Even if they can't take advantage of them, they can still build a good relationship and fulfill their needs. Mo Shinshan said that Mr. Chu can think it over carefully and take his time to answer. And as a welcome gift, the purchases he chose will be free. This sword is also meant for him, and she hopes that he will use it for its intended purpose. Chumo asked Mo Shinshan if she was afraid that he might refuse after receiving the sword. Mo Shinshan explained that even if she were to give him the sword, she could easily afford it. The more she believes that Mr. Chu will make the right choice. Chumo recognized that Leader Mo is really generous, and therefore he certainly can't let her down. He accepts the offer. When Chumo left, the old woman reminded Madame that although Chumo had a good heart, he was only a rookie genius. She then asked, why was it worth it to spend so much effort to hire him using even the leader's quota? As she suddenly realized, the old woman asked if there could be. Mo Shinshan told Elder Zhou that, as the latter already knew, one of her auxiliary talents was a special auxiliary talent. From the moment Chumo entered the store, she sensed him and invited him over. She sensed a familiar aura from Chumo. She and him are the same. The square of the first academy of Luoyang Base. After the end of the double trial, everyone was amazed that Chen Shiwei was ranked first. After all, even though she was strong, Guo Kun from the elite class scored more points in the test than her. Except Guo Kun was seriously injured when he was surrounded by Xu Guang and his men at Dushu Mountain. Xu Guang was killed during the test. Although the teachers of Changfeng Base searched for the body, they never found it. The dean of the academy invited Chen Siwei to come on stage. Meanwhile, Chen Siwei reflected on the fact that she was only able to get a grade with the help of Xu Guang's bag left behind by her savior. Otherwise, she would have been able to take third place at most. Unfortunately, she was still unable to find her savior on Mount Dashu. Doing tapped Chen Siwei and told her to get up on the stage as she was being summoned by the dean. The dean once again asked Chen Siwei to come on stage to receive the award. For her first place finish, the dean gave Chen Siwei a storage bag with 10 bottles of third-level beast blood and 100,000 lower-grade stones, and said that she could choose any 2 bronze-level martial arts techniques in the Warrior Academy Pavilion. In addition, she would now be trained by her personally and the resources given out once a month would be increased. The students were shocked when they heard about learning from the dean. After all, it was far better than all the other honors combined. Chen Shiwei's friends were happy for her. They had long suspected that she would one day become the pride of their first academy. Chen Shiwei wondered about Chumo not showing up, but she agreed that she was just winding herself up. Meanwhile, Chumo was practicing the Thunder Sword of Wild Cold Sorrow in the abandoned areas outside of the city. Chumo fought the beast by creating a huge amount of ice. Suddenly, he felt something coming up from below and used the second stage, diving, to avoid the giant worm. Immediately after, he attacked the worm using the Thunder Sword of Wild Cold Sorrow. The worm was frozen to the ground, stopping its movement. The worm kept swinging back and forth, but could not break free from the ice. After immobilizing the enemy, Chumo used the sky-shattering blade to chop the worm into pieces. After cutting the worm, the blades rushed further, and with a huge stream, they punched a hole in the building. The Cold Sorrow Sword had begun its plunge, and the sky-shattering blade had finally been perfected. The new weapon doubled the power of Chumo's attacks, and if he met Chumo now, he was almost certain that he would be able to kill him with a single strike. Chumo thought something strange. He should have already mastered the art of wielding a sword, but for some reason, he felt as if he hadn't done something yet. He wondered if it was because he hadn't practiced the body-strengthening technique enough to perfect it. Although the warrior's level had been raised, he still hadn't even reached the next 3 stages of muscle and bone strengthening, blood purification, and qi gathering, which the book described as blood and bone purification. Chumo suggested that he would next have to focus on perfecting his body hardening from today. Half a month later, the life force strengthens the bones and muscles. Chumo recognized that it was indeed an indescribable feeling. Just as suddenly, Chumo's body was pierced by pain. He felt as if his bones were burning. Along with that, impurities were taken out of his body. Chumo had no idea that such a great change would occur after the purification. After tempering with the life force method, the speed of improvement increased by more than 5 times compared to the basic body enhancement method. At this rate, with his current talents, he would be able to become one of the 3 warriors in a year. But even that was too slow for Chumo. It had already been half a month since he had returned, and Zhou Cheng might have noticed him, even though he no longer fears him. But over the decades of the Zhou family's accumulation in the Luoyang base, countless masters had accumulated there. Therefore, he must become stronger. Meanwhile, at the Zhou family's estate, a worker of the Zhou family reported that they had discovered Chumo's footprints. Chumo had been back for like half a month, but he had been practicing in the abandoned areas outside the city. He had just returned home and was discovered by them. Zhou Shen recognized that Chumo was a smart kid. After all, the last time Kanian did not return, he expected it to be a warning for him to avoid the Zhou family. After which, he added that he had finally managed to obtain the rare Zhou Qi treasure, and therefore he hoped that he had managed to master self-defense skills before they came to him. Zhou Cheng grabbed the bird sitting on his hand. Crushing the bird, Zhou Cheng asked the worker to keep an eye on Chumo, and the next time Chumo went to the abandoned area, he'll do it all on his own. He'll kill him. While packing his satchel, Chumo pondered on Mo Shanshan's words. She was talking about their alliance providing warriors with the best training buildings for free, where life force formation could double the speed of improvement. Although in the wilderness, Chumo could fight ferocious beasts, but the effect of gathering qi from it was not enough. Hence, he decided to go to the warrior center and focus on training for a while. Just at this moment, Chen Siwei came home. Chumo swept her back, and Chen Siwei asked if he was going to leave so soon. Chumo explained that he needs to leave for a few days. It is in the city and therefore safe, because of which Chen Siwei may not worry about him. Afterward, he said that he heard that she was injured during the double trial. Chumo asked her to rest while he was away, and he also congratulated her on her first place. Chen Siwei wondered if it was really Chumo, for his reaction was too abnormal. Jade House, a top-class training building. While practicing, Chumo pondered that the silver-level martial arts Thunder Sword of Wild Cold Tribulation was powerful and ferocious, unrivaled in its pursuit of a deadly blade. Even though he can control his coldness, he always feels like he's not finished with something. Chumo assumed that he was not using life force well and decided to use even more life force. Putting even more energy into his sword, Chumo swung his blade, creating even more ice. Even so, he felt like he was doing something wrong. He was trying to figure out what the problem was. Judging from the name of the technique, cold was an independent attribute of ice, and thunder had no manifestation. And as for a silver level skill, it would be too difficult to carry two attributes: thunder, wild, cold. Just as suddenly, Chumo realized that this was madness. Here, it wasn't about the natural attributes attached to it. It was about the insanity of this martial art. When a swordsman uses his sword, he already has the power to go forward. No matter what obstacles are in front of him, he will cut them down with his sword. It is madness. Having given up the defense, there is only the use of the sword, without thinking about anything else. 1,000 swords are like one sword, and one sword is like 1,000 swords. And the only goal is to fight the enemy to the end. There are 1,000 ways, but only the sword is invincible. After the concept, Chumo used the Wild Cold Tribulation Thunder Sword, then summoned a huge pillar of cold energy. It was nearing evening. Chumo had finally finished training and left the building. A couple of warriors outside were chatting about something strange feeling from this building. The warrior asked his friend if she had ever felt the Zhu building moving before. She replied that she had never felt that before, and that there were magic circles inside the building, which made it much more stable than the others. Suddenly, Shu's building started to get covered in cracks and then collapsed. The warrior shielded his friend from the debris of the collapsing building. Immediately after that, the guards came running in. They wanted to know what was going on and who just dared to cause trouble here. The guards surrounded Chumo along with the two warriors, preparing to kill them if they started to resist. Soon, Madame Mo Shenshan came to them, who was surprised to realize that Chumo was involved here. Mo Shanshan asked if he had really managed to master the sword realm. She could clearly sense the residual sword concept here. Chumo is not even 20, but he is indeed capable of practicing sword skills at this kind of level, making him a genius. Chumo inquired, "What sword realm is Leader Mo talking about?" Mo Shanshan reflected that although Chumo had trained at the academy as an ordinary person, he had managed to achieve everything on his own. He was much stronger than she had imagined, so she thought about including Chumo in the Jade Business Alliance. Mo Shanshan explained that if a warrior had a talent of wielding a sword, he could improve into the corresponding realm. She knew of the 3 realms of the sword. The first realm is the realm of sword light, where the blade has light, full power, and killing intent when drawn. The second realm is the power of the sword. The shadow of the sword fills the sky, and there is no stopping it. The third realm is sword intent. When the sword is drawn out, it will be enveloped by an aura that cannot be avoided. An ordinary swordsman, when faced with sword intent, will not even be able to bear their blades. Chumo thanked the leader for sharing the information with him, after which he thought about the fact that the perfect level of the sky-splitting blade talent was the first level called the Sword Light Realm. Chumo wondered if this could have all happened because he had acquired the blade talent and advanced again in such a short period of time. Chumo apologized for the destruction caused, explaining that he was too engrossed in his training. Mo Shanshan chuckled at this and said that if it helped him understand sword power, then it was clearly worth an entire building. After he understood the power of the sword, he would still need to consolidate the realm, which the actual battle would help him with. The guards began to discuss who Mr. Chu was and how dare he joke with Miss Mo. In addition, this person's strength was simply unfathomable, as he was able to destroy a building with mere training. Chumo thanked Leader Mo for the advice and left so as not to cause her any more trouble. Walking down the street, Chumo pondered over where he should get a real fight. After all, he did not have much desire to return to Mount Dashu once again. Suddenly, he noticed a tail following him. The Zhou family servants followed Chumo as he suddenly began to dissolve into a flash of electricity. They were trying to figure out what had happened and where the object of their pursuit had gone. Suddenly, Chumo appeared behind them and asked if he was the one they were looking for. In the next instant, Chumo took one of the pursuers' life. And the other one, he grabbed him by the neck and slammed him against the wall of the building. Chumo demanded that he tell who sent him right away. The pursuer revealed that Zhou Cheng had sent them and began to beg for mercy, but Chumo only squeezed his neck harder. As he had expected, it was indeed Zhou Cheng, and therefore he was obligated to get rid of him, as not only he, but also Chen Shiwei might be in danger. Zhou family manor. The guard said that after the death of young Master Zhou Qi, their master was becoming more and more insecure, to which the other replied that it was all nonsense, as no one would be happy about the death of their son. The first guard said that judging by the weather, it was going to rain heavily in the middle of the night. The guard turned around saying what he would like, as he suddenly noticed that his partner had disappeared somewhere. At the same moment, a silhouette with a sword appeared behind him. The guard who was to be replaced came out of the building. He assumed those guys had gone into the garden again. But as he descended the stairs, he was horrified as the bodies of his partners lay across the grounds. The guard asked, how could this have happened? Suddenly, he heard a rustle, and turning around, he saw a familiar figure. Inside the Zhou family's estate, Zhou Sheng was starting to get angry as the people chasing Chu Mo still hadn't returned. Suddenly, he heard a rumbling noise outside. Zhou Cheng asked the guards, what's going on in there? As Zhou Cheng walked towards the door, he could hear the astonished voices of the guards, those trying to figure out where everyone had gone and if they were even alive. Zhou Cheng abruptly opened the door and asked the staff what they were arguing about here. But to his surprise, he saw that all the guards had been interrupted, and a stranger was standing at the other end of the aisle. Zhou Cheng was astonished since so many people had been killed behind the wall, and he only heard a slight rumble. He wondered, when did the Luoyang base have time to have such a strong young man? Zhou Cheng asked the stranger who the stranger was and why he killed his men. After all, they had nothing against each other. Chu Mo was surprised at Zhou Cheng's words. After all, the latter didn't even bother to know what the person he was trying to kill looked like. Hearing this, Zhou Cheng realized that Chu Mo was in front of him, causing the veins on his face to swell. Zhou Cheng said that Chu Mo might have killed Ke Nian a month ago, but he had seen his body, through which he was able to know that back then, Chu Mo had just entered the martial arts realm. He asked, how did that person only dare to kill his men? Zhou Cheng remembered telling his son about the secret treasure in the Earth Dragon's lair. He was now certain that Chu Mo had taken the secret treasure from his precious son. Zhou Cheng shouted that the secret treasure from the secret place could strengthen in a month, and that it should belong to him, but Chu Mo took his chance. Immediately after which, he created many swords made of life force and attacked Chu Mo with them. Chu Mo recognized that Zhou Cheng was very skilled in using life force, which was befitting of a strong man who had been in the late stage of a warrior for many years. He uses the energy to move his swords to increase their range. But Chu Mo stomped on the ground, releasing energy to block Zhou Cheng's swords. At the same moment, Zhou Cheng personally attacked Chu Mo, shouting that he had used up all his strength to block his five-pointed swords. He did not expect that this child would be able to reach a level where he could use life force, but this was the perfect chance for him. Standing right in front of Chu Mo, Zhou Cheng ordered the latter to look at the sword that would cut him down. Suddenly, Chu Mo avoided Zhou Cheng's attack and ended up at his back. Immediately after that, Chu Mo began to swiftly attack Zhou Cheng, trying to break through his block. Zhou Cheng noticed that this kid was no worse than him, whether it was speed or vitality control. Chu Mo almost hit Zhou Cheng as he suddenly bounced against the wall. Immediately after which, Zhou Cheng pressed a hidden button on the wall, and a moment later there was an explosion near Chu Mo that threw him out of the building. After flying out of the building, Chu Mo rolled on the ground but still managed to stop, aiming his blade at the ground. Zhou Cheng laughed, then said that even if the latter had increased his strength due to the secret treasure, he still had yet to gain experience. Besides, this was his territory, and Chu Mo mistakenly believed that he had no plans for such occasions. Zhou Cheng asked Chu Mo, how is the secret treasure absorbed? Through the bones or through the blood? In that case, he would pick Chu Mo apart and pour out all of his blood. Zhou Cheng wished that Chu Mo would go to hell, where he would have to make amends to his son, immediately after which he shot him with a new batch of blades. But Chu Mo used the Luoyan steps to dodge the swords and get as close to Zhou Cheng as possible. Immediately after that, he attacked Zhou Cheng using the Thunder talent. At this moment, Zhou Cheng realized that Chu Mo was not injured by the explosion and was only pretending. Just as suddenly, Chu Mo reappeared in front of him. Chu Mo said that Zhou Qi was a shameless rascal and asked if the latter thought that he would be defenseless against his father. After that, Chu Mo attacked Zhou Qi using the Thunder talent, but he blocked the attack, causing him to be sealed into the ground in a flash. Rising from the dust cloud, Zhou Qi began to tear his clothes while cursing Chu Mo. He warned Chu Mo not to get ahead of himself, for now he would show why even the martial artists in Luoyang base did not dare to contact him. After which, Zhou Cheng flew up into the air and used the sky-shattering blade, 10,000 blades. Chu Mo was surprised to see Zhou Cheng activating the explosive power of the Transcendence realm, right after creating the sky-shattering blade. This was probably the perfect moment for Chu Mo to test how much his strength had grown. Attacking Chu Mo, Zhou Cheng was trying to understand why the latter was not trying to dodge, and what was he up to. After all, if his blade fell on Chu Mo, he would die even though his strength had already reached the warlord level. But no matter what, Chumo would definitely not be able to pierce through his 10,000 blades. Even if Zhou Cheng missed a single strike, there was nothing Chumo could do to him. Chumo concentrated and channeled the Thunder Talent energy into his sword. Choding was shocked when he saw the resonance of the blade, for this meant that he had already mastered the blade realm. No sooner had Zhou Cheng gotten close to Chumo than he flew past while inflicting many sword strikes. Immediately after which, Zhou Cheng felt all of these attacks. Having finally dealt with one of his major problems, Chumo hid his blade. Zhou Cheng died and the Zhou family was exterminated. The next morning, a group of people gathered at the mansion to investigate the murder. The head of the Luoyang-based law enforcement team was surprised that Zhou Cheng, who was at a high level of warrior, was suddenly killed. The officer reported to the captain that all the Zhou family employees in the mansion had been killed, and that the assassin had killed each one with a single blow. Hearing this, the captain realized that the assassin was a strong warrior with a sword that they wouldn't be able to handle. He ordered to gather all the information immediately and report upstairs for decisions. In the evening of the same day, Chumo was counting the trophies obtained after the battle with Zhou Cheng. He had commandeered 35 portions of second-level beast blood, 4 portions of third-level beast blood, as well as a large amount of second-level materials and precious medicinal herbs. The total value of the items was over $1 million. Chumo chuckled as Zhou Cheng's 10 years of accumulation suddenly became his. Next, Chumo decided to focus on cultivation and strive to raise his level as soon as possible to reach the warlord level. Chumo rolled all the things into a bag as a box suddenly fell from the bed. Chumo admitted that he had almost forgotten about it. When he opened the box, he noticed that the egg seemed to be breathing. It was alive, but monster eggs usually hatch after a maximum of 3 years. Chumi wondered why this egg was taking so long to hatch and started trying to speed it up. First, he dripped blood on it, and afterwards, he injected it with life force, and even tried to just crack it, but it was all for nothing. Therefore, Chumo boiled an egg in a pot and even fed his lightning bolt to it. No matter what he tried to do, the egg didn't show any signs of hatching soon, and Chumo was tired of trying so much. Chumo decided to forget about this egg for now. After all, if it was so easy to hatch, it wouldn't have fallen into his hands, and so he decided to focus on his training. He decided to start by consuming the wind spirit fruit he had gathered while on Mount Dashu. The wind spirit fruit allows warriors with the wind attribute to gain enlightenment, potentially enhancing their talents. Three-eyed eagle, a fast beast of first level and medium size that hunts small beasts at night. Just as suddenly someone's foot landed on him, Chumo pushed away from the three-eyed eagle using a sonic blast. After consuming 42 wind spirit fruits and half a month of training and digesting, Chumo was finally able to exceed the speed of sound. After checking the gathering system's evaluation, Chumo learned that his wind talent had moved to the lowest bronze level. If he ran at full speed, his speed would be 5 times the speed of sound, making Chumo almost as fast as warlords. Chumo descended to the roof and started using the body forging method. He couldn't stop there because with the attribute breakthrough effect, he could engage in body forging. As he did so, the blood throughout his body flowed with chi. Just as suddenly, Chumo cried out, and a huge vortex of energy burst out from his body. Right now, his base strength is 5,000 Jin, and if he adds the thunder attribute, his strength will reach all 2,000 Jin. A mid-level warrior, his bones and muscles are synchronized, and his strength is 5,000 Jin. After completing the forging of the body, Chumo's next step should be to refine the blood. Compared to the early stage of bone marrow forging, the middle stage of blood, chi refining, is very long and ordinary martial artists cannot advance further for several years. Chumo wondered if there was an elixir in the Jade House that could speed up the process of refining chi and blood ki. He decided to check it at dawn. The next morning in the Jade House, Mo Shanshan cried out in shock as Chumo's level rose once again. Every time she saw him, Chumo's strength became greater and greater. She had been to many bases, and only a handful of people could achieve such a result. Chumo explained that it was because he had been practicing hard recently, which was why he had made some progress. After that, he said that he had come here to find out if the Jade House had an elixir that could accelerate the refining of chi and blood. Leader Mo said that since the one was looking for the elixir, she wanted to ask for his help. The reward would certainly be satisfying. Chumo decided to listen to what she wanted to assign him. After all, from the looks of it, it must be one of those tasks that he had to do once a year as a consultant of the Jade House. Mo Shan said that the Jade House far away in Changfeng Base had accidentally gotten a treasure that she really wanted, so she wanted someone to escort it to Luoyang Base. The thing is that because of this treasure, the Changfeng Base Jade House has lost a lot of people and will not be able to accompany him for some time, so she wants to send people only from Luoyang Base. Chumo recalled that the distance between Luoyang Base and Changfeng Base was thousands of miles, and there must be thousands of ferocious beasts in between, and therefore he was sure that he was not the only one on this mission. Chumo asked, "Is it really like this?" Mo Shan explained that to ensure safety, she and the Jade House will also send some warriors on this journey. Although this task is dangerous, but the reward is great, after completing the task, they will each receive 5 servings of the Jade Liquid from the Horned Rhinoceros. If Chumo agrees to this, they will meet in 5 days at the west gate of Luoyang Base at 7 in the morning. Chumo realized that this was exactly what he needed, as the Jade Liquid of the Horned Rhinoceros could accelerate the speed of a warrior's chi and blood purification by 10 times. Chumo cried out that he was willing to take on this errand. The Horned Rhinoceros is a rare and hard to obtain, and since the Jade House wants to use it as a reward, this task will definitely not be easy. Even so, he just has to get the Jade Liquid. 5 days later, the west gate of Luoyang Base. Choma wondered if all these people were his teammates for the duration of this errand. The cultivation level of the team members is at the late stage of the warrior level and the highest at the warlord level, so this team is clearly not weak. Leader Mo noticed Chumo approaching and asked him to come over. Chumo asked Mo Shan if they had been waiting for a long time, to which he replied that they had only just gotten here. As someone suddenly shrieked that Zhangshun had arrived, everyone was surprised that the manager of the Jade House had been invited into the group and welcomed him. Mo Shan explained that Zhangshun is a manager who was recruited by the Jade House. He has an average swordsman talent and a low-grade metal talent. He is a rare gifted art master with 2 attributes. Zhangshun asked Shanshan if she had personally come to see him off and tried to touch her shoulder, but Mo Shanshan dodged. Zhangshun then introduced them to Mo Shanshan, the new consultant of the Jade House. Zhangshun reminded Shanshan that not everyone could be a counselor and asked her not to be fooled. Chumo immediately realized that this guy was hostile towards him. Suddenly, someone clapped their hands loudly and asked everyone to calm down. After which, that person introduced himself as Chen Yuan, one of the managers of the Jade Business Alliance, and he is also at the warlord level and will be leading this operation. He reminded that many of the people present were newcomers, participating in an operation led by such an old man for the first time, hence he would tell them the rules. Chen Yuan said that it was a long journey, almost 10,000 miles round trip. All the routes were already booked, and no one was allowed to leave the team or come into contact with outsiders. Even if something happens, they must report it to him first. If they can't do that, they can leave right away. If they wait until they start, however, they must not accuse him of being benevolent if they break the rules. Chumo recognized that this leader is very experienced, because discipline and cooperation are very important when working as a team in a wilderness environment. Shenyan said that if the warriors didn't have any objections, they could show their strengths to familiarize themselves with them. Immediately after that, the trio introduced themselves: Wang Shou, a beginner-level warrior, good with swords; Ho Nan, a high-level warrior who is good with swords, as well as Xin Yunsheng, a high-level warrior specializing in the use of daggers and possessing the talents of killing and scouting with the wind attribute. Zhangxin said that he was a high-level warrior who specialized in using swords and had a medium sword refining talent and a low metal talent. The people around him began to discuss that Zhangxun had dual talents and that such a person was worthy of being the manager of the Jade House. Zhangxun asked Chumo what was the strength of one of the 2 members of the Luoyang Jade base. Chumo said that he was a mid-level warrior who specialized in using swords. The workers of the Jade House began to discuss how a mid-level warrior could become a member of the Trade Alliance. This mission is very dangerous, and such a person would have a hard time protecting even himself, making him a burden. Zhangxin told Chumo that the others were right and suggested that they should not talk about how Chumo managed to become a consultant while only being at the middle level of a warrior. Shanshan had to tell him that this assignment crossed 2 bases and the journey was long and dangerous. He asked Chumo if he thought they would save him if he was in danger with his strength. Mo Shanshan demanded that Zhang Xuan stop being rude to Mr. Chu, After all, his strength had been evaluated by the Jade Trading Alliance, and he was completely suitable for this mission and consultant position. Zhang Xian laughed and said that if a person with such a weak cultivation managed to become a consultant, he was afraid that Shan Xian would be cheated. Chumo asked, "What does the other person mean?" Zhang Xian said that it was a simple matter. He suggested that Chumo should defeat him, otherwise he would not be able to participate in this mission, and he would also remove Chumo from his role as a consultant. Chumo was just waiting for such an outcome, and thus he happily agreed. Yunxing said that it was rumored that Mr. Jiang Xuan had recently reached the light of the blade, and asked if that meant that even ordinary warlords wouldn't be able to defeat him. Wang Chou explained that metal talent was the most important in swordsmanship attributes. Zhang Xuan's alloy sword could be improved by at least one level, which was clearly beyond the ability of an average-level warlord. Chen Yun asked Miss Mo not to worry, as he would monitor the battlefield and prevent Zhang Xuan from injuring Chumo. But Mo Shenshan refused Chen Yun, saying that Zhang Xuan would not be able to harm Chumo. She knew that even if Zhang Xuan had reached the light of the blade, he was still not at the level of Chumo, who had learned the full power of swordsmanship. Zhang Xuan asked Shanshan not to worry as he would strike carefully and try to avoid bloodshed. Immediately afterward, he attacked Chumo, shouting that he did not know where he got so much confidence from, but today he would be defeated. Zhang Xian cleaved Chumo, but in the last instant, Chumo managed to avoid the sword. As an object suddenly flew near Chumo's face, Zhang Xuan's sword aura split into several subtle sword chi games. If Chumo's eyes could not see objects flying at the speed of sound, he would not be able to avoid those sword chi needles even if he avoided the sword aura. Without him dodging, Chumo's meridians would have been cleaved and he would have been completely annihilated. This Zhang Xuan is so ruthless that he can't just let him stay with them. In that case, Chumo suddenly stopped. Yunxing asked what the man was doing, and why did the man suddenly stop dodging? Zhang Shen knew that unfortunately for Chumo, there was another surprise hidden within his aura. Upon reaching the sword light, his metal talent could channel the sword aura in the form of steel needles so that they would pierce into a person's body, cutting their meridians and crippling them. Having gotten the opportune moment, Zhang Xuan chopped with his blade, but unexpectedly Chumo grabbed the blade with his bare hand, whereupon he squeezed his hand and the blade was covered in cracks. Zhang Xuan was shocked, for his aura had somehow been destroyed. Just as suddenly, Chumo broke Zhang Xuan's sword, depriving Zhang Xuan of his weapon. Chen Yin was amazed that a mid-level warrior was able to break Zhang Xuan's sword. Zhang Xuan couldn't believe what had happened. Chumo reminded Zhang Xuan that he had asked where his confidence came from. Immediately after which, he chopped Zhang Xuan, saying that it was just him. Chen Yun immediately rushed over to Zhang Xuan to check on his condition. After which, he said that Zhang Xuan was still alive, but his meridians had been cut, causing him to become crippled. Wang Shou still couldn't believe that Zhang Xuan, who was at the peak of the warlord level, had lost to Consultant Mo. Yunsheng added that now she didn't find it surprising that he was a mid-stage warrior, even though he was a mid-stage warrior. Mo Shanshan said that she was now confident that no one else had any doubts about Chumo's strength, and so she suggested that they take a break before starting to prepare to leave for Changfeng Bas. 5 days later, Jade House's group was heading towards the Changfeng base. Chen Yun said that it was almost night, so he suggested that they rest here tonight. He warned that no one in the group should make fires as it might attract beasts, and they would also have to keep watch with 5 people changing shifts every 2 hours. Yunshin remarked that their journey had been smooth so far, so they would be able to reach Changfeng base tomorrow. She then added that they were only able to overcome 80% of the ferocious beasts because of Senior Qian's experience. Haonan said that this is really true. This is his first time teaming up with Old Man Qian. Suddenly, Haonan's head exploded, preventing him from finishing his words. Yunsheng fell to the ground due to fear as the one exploded right in front of her. Everyone was trying to figure out what had happened and why Honan had suddenly died. Chumo shouted for them all to be careful, as they were probably being attacked by something. Chumo thought what happened was very strange. After all, there wasn't a single fluctuation in the air, and he didn't even feel the trajectory of the attack. Chen Yin ordered the team to stop panicking and group together. Just as suddenly, Yunxing noticed something rushing past one of the guards. A moment later, that one exploded just as Honan did. Yunxing called out that a non-white shadow had just flashed near the guard. Right after that, Chumo sensed something and managed to dodge the attack in the last instant. Immediately afterward, he noticed that those just appeared behind him. Chen Yun was amazed when he saw these beasts. After all, they were white weasels. The warriors tried to match the moment while the weasels ran around in circles uninterruptedly. Wang Tso noticed the white weasel skip right beside him, causing him to start panicking. He inarticulately shouted that white weasels could travel through space, causing them to not stand a chance. After which he started repeating that they would just die. Qianyun shouted to Wang Tso that there was no need to panic right now. After all, it's only a mid-third level beast, and they have a chance before the weasels find their flaws and destroy them one by one. Then he ordered everyone to be alert. They were to form a ring with every other person looking in. As soon as they see a weasel inside, they must not hesitate to attack them. Chumo recognized that Chen Yuan was indeed experienced, because this position allowed them to maximize their observation on all sides. Just as suddenly, one of the guards cried out and was hit in the chest. The warriors were trying to figure out what had just happened, since no one had noticed anything. Just as suddenly, a small object landed near the guardian. The guards panicked, for it was the heart of... Chumo realized that the weasel hadn't ripped out her heart for prey, which meant she was just teasing them. Chumo wondered if they had intelligence. Suddenly, 4 more guards were attacked by white weasels. Chen Yen ordered everyone to calm down. After all, the more they panicked, the more likely the beast would take advantage of it. But unfortunately, the guards were already panic-stricken and were dying one by one. Yunxing said that she saw the weasel, but the weasel was too fast, so she couldn't attack. Just as suddenly, Wang Tso shouted that he couldn't take it anymore and started chopping the air in an attempt to hurt the weasel. He was ordering the weasel to come out to him and die, and Yunxing started asking him to calm down. Wang Tso ordered them to get out. After all, the weasel is just trying to drive them all to their deaths, and he can't let them do that. Just as suddenly, a rift opened behind Wang Tso, and a moment later, a caress passed through his chest. At the same moment, Chu Mo used the second-level Luo Yan step and slashed at the weasel with his sword, but the weasel managed to escape into the rift. Everyone was astonished as Chumo was able to chop down a weasel so quickly, but Chumo shouted that he had only injured the weasel. He asked them to be more careful as the weasel should now slow down. One of the guards shouted to Chumo that the weasel was near him. Immediately afterward, Chumo threw a series of punches following the guard's instructions, but never hit the weasel. One of the warriors asked, did the weasel stop or did it disappear? To which Yunsheng replied that every time a white weasel appeared, it never left its prey alive, which meant it was still here somewhere. Chumo assumed that since the weasel was injured and its speed had decreased, it was waiting for the moment to attack. If the weasel was bold, he should be the next target to attack. In that case, it would be the perfect chance to kill it. Just as suddenly, Yunsheng shouted to Chumo that the weasel was right above him. Getting the perfect chance, Chumo dodged the caress. Immediately afterward, he chopped her up with his blade. Yunsheng asked, did the weasel die this time? Chen Yuan said that when encountering a white weasel, almost no one below the patriarch level survived, which was very good for Chumo. If Chen Yuan had encountered something like this, he wouldn't have survived. Chumo mentally praised Chen Yuan for his keen eye. After all, it was lucky to have such a person on the side of the Jade Trading Alliance. Chen Yuan thanked Chumo for saving his life, to which Chumo replied that by overcoming problems together, they were binding themselves with the bonds of life and death, and therefore he did not need to be thanked for his help. Kaiyan Yan said that in that case, he would start calling Chumo brother. Thanks to Brother Chu, there were many survivors this time, and therefore they would let him deal with these weasels. Chumo said that there was no need for formalities in such a case. After a while, Changfeng Base. After such a long time, Chumo and his group reached Changfeng Base. Yan Yin revealed that he had informed the person in charge of the Changfeng Base Jade House before entering the city, but for some unknown reason, they were never greeted by anyone upon entering the city. Chumo wondered why Changfeng Base was so desolate. After all, it was rumored to be larger than Luyang Base. Chumo clearly felt that there was something wrong here. Just as suddenly, an employee of Jade House ran out to them with several guards. Chen Yuan asked Lao Shun why there were only 3 of them and what happened. Suddenly, Lao Shun grabbed Chen Yuan's hand and started pulling him along, saying that they had all done a good job and that he would first ask to take them all to the inn at the Jade House so that they could have a good rest today. Lao Shun said that he and Master Qin should go through the procedure of handing over the secret treasure that he should accompany. Realizing what the matter was, Chen Yuan told the group that they could rest since they were probably tired after a long journey. It seemed to Chu Mo that it was as if Lao Shun was trying to avoid them in order to talk to Chen Yuan alone. which meant that something had really happened at the Changfeng base. Left alone, Chumo took out a white weasel, although it is only a third-level beast, but it dealt almost crushing damage to the team led by the warlord. This was all thanks to its natural ability to move through space. If he can gather it, his strength will increase significantly. Chumo used the gathering, immediately after which the system offered him a fusion with a secondary spatial talent. Chumo used the fusion as the system suddenly activated his spatial perception ability. With this ability, Chumo could see everything around him quite clearly. Chumo found the spatial perception ability to be quite amazing. He could clearly perceive everything within a 50-meter radius, after which he wondered what was up with his ability to break through space and transport himself the way the white weasel did. After preparing a bit, Chumo dived into the rift. Immediately afterward, he appeared near the bird and grabbed it. Although Chumo could teleport to any point in his perception, spatial perception could detect and locate, and spatial rift could teleport instantly, making this talent both offensive and defensive. Suddenly, Chen Yun, who was under the tree, noticed Chumo and asked what he was doing there. Chumo jumped down from the tree and asked Chen Yun if he had finished his business, to which the man replied that they had already finished everything, so they could head back tomorrow. Lao Sun asked Chen Yun if this was his nephew. Chen Yun laughed and then told Sun that he had misunderstood everything. After all, if he had such a nephew, he would wake up laughing in his sleep. After which, he explained that Chumo was a consultant of their Jade House. Although he's at the average level of a warrior, but he is truly a genius. Lao Sun found it surprising that someone had become a consultant at such an early age. After all, to become a consultant at Chumo's level, one simply had to possess immense talent and a bright future. Lao Sun said that he had nothing more to say about it. Then he said that Consultant Chu could contact him if there were any problems during his stay at the Changfeng base. Chuma told Lao Sun that he was too kind to him and said that he had a question for him. Chuma asked what was going on at the Changfeng base right now, since there were too few people here, after which he added that it was okay if he couldn't tell. Lao Shun said that Consultant Chu was one of them, and therefore he had nothing to hide from him. Previously, he didn't talk about it because he was afraid that too many people would get wind of it and cause a panic. The thing was that recently around Changfeng bus, just as suddenly a rumbling sound was heard and Chumo asked, "What is going on here?" Turning around, Chumo saw that Changfeng's base had been attacked by a huge monster. It was a level 3 dragon, ship-a-spin dragon beast. He wanted to understand where this beast could have come from here. After all, every base should be guarded by a warlord-level warrior and many warriors, unless Changfeng base could not function normally. The dragon aimed at the girl sitting in the middle of the ruins, calling for her mom. But at the last moment, Chumo jumped towards her and repelled the dragon paw. Shuma asked Chen Yan to deal with that girl, and Chen Yan asked Chumo not to doubt him. Lao Sun asked Chen Yuan if it was okay to leave the dragon to Chumo alone. After all, the ship-a-spin dragon was at the 3rd level, while Chumo was only a mid-level warrior. Chen Yuan asked that person not to worry about it. After all, Chumo was not exactly an ordinary warrior. The huge dragon turned around and attacked Chumo with its tail. But Chumo dodged the tail with a Luoyan step, after which he ran down the dragon's back towards its head. Realizing that the man was on his back, the dragon began to shake to throw him off. Lao Sun thought that the dragon would drop Chumo, but Chen Yuan asked the man to take a closer look. Chumo managed to grab onto one of the dragon's spikes to stop his fall. Chumo bounced off the dragon spike and headed upwards. Immediately after that, he attacked the dragon using the thunder talent. Using a few sharp movements, Chumo quickly dealt with the huge lizard. Chen Yuan acknowledged that Brother Chu was indeed very strong, for he had single-handedly defeated the Chapaspin dragon, and Lao Sun shouted that Consultant Chu had saved them all. Chumo asked Mr. Shun what had happened here, since a ferocious beast of the 3rd level had managed to come within 30 kilometers of the base, to which the man replied that this was the problem with their base. Over the past 2 months, the ferocious beasts on the periphery of the Changfeng base had become very active and began to attack the base frequently. The base had sent out several groups of martial artists to scout, but they never returned. Lao Sun revealed that the base had sent 5 of their 6 patriarchs to investigate. Currently, only the guard captain, Zi Yuan, remained in the base. The number of their warlords and warriors had been halved, causing a serious shortage of warriors in the Changfeng base. Chuan Yin said that he understood everything, and that he hoped that they could figure out the cause and solve this crisis as soon as possible. But if he needed help, he could just ask. Chumo thought it was strange because in order to keep the base running, it needed at least 3 patriarchs. But now there was only 1 left, which meant that the crisis at Changfeng Base was even more devastating than the beasts that had attacked the city. Moreover, the tests of the Changfeng and Luoyang bases were only a month ago. There's no telling why it was necessary to send people for the test at a time when they are so lacking. As the servants suddenly came over to them, they were surprised to see that the Chispin dragon was already dead. But that's great since they were afraid they were already too late. The attendant thanked Mr. Sun for killing the dragon and explained that there had just been an attack on the western part of the city, causing them to be short on men and afraid they wouldn't be able to get there in time. But Lao Shun explained to them that the dragon Chiaspin was actually killed by Mr. Chu, who was a consultant of the Luoyang-based Jade House. Immediately afterward, the minister thanked Chumo for his assistance. As the minister was suddenly contacted by management, he was a little surprised at what was said, but still agreed. After which, the attendant reported that the captain of the guards was inviting the 3 of them to the center as she had something to discuss with them. Chongfeng Base Center. On the way to the captain of the guard, the minister told them that as the patriarch, the latter is always in charge of the center, making it impossible for her to leave of her own accord, and that is why they have to ask them to meet here. On reaching the captain's room, the clerk stood at the door and said they could come in. As soon as Chumo stepped on the threshold, suddenly everything around him turned dark. It was like an illusion or a trap. Chumo used his spatial perception to see something. Suddenly, he saw an arrow flying at him and ducked. After that, he began to dodge more arrows. He thought it was strange that even though it was a killing move, he couldn't feel the killer's aura. The woman on the other side of the room said very shrewdly as Chumo suddenly discovered her location. Chumo took advantage of the spatial rift and shocked the enemy. Immediately after, he flew out behind her back and attacked. As soon as he chopped the target, Chumo noticed that he could see everything again. Immediately afterward, he heard applause from the back. The woman said that this was exactly what was expected from a Luoyang Jade House consultant. After which, she apologized for daring to do a small test. Chumo immediately realized that in front of him was the captain of the guards, Patriarch Zi Yuan. Chumo admitted that he did not understand what the test was for. Suddenly, Chen Yuan and Lao Shun burst into the room. Chen Yuan asked Chumo if he was all right because the door to the room closed as soon as Chumo went inside, which scared them. Ji Yuan apologized for scaring them and explained that the first reason for conducting this test was to test Mr. Chu's skills, and the second, they discovered that the strange movements of the wild beast this time are artificial. The opponent's energy contains the power of a beast that would most likely be detected by a surprise attack. And of course, the result of this test allows her to trust Mr. Chu completely. She already knows that if Mr. Chu didn't show up at the base today, several people would have died. If possible, she would like to invite Mr. Chu to become a special member of the Changfeng base security team. Chumo asked if they really needed him, since they should be heading back to Luoyang base this afternoon. Chen Yuan to Patriarch shared that under normal circumstances, they could all stay to help the Changfeng base. But the secret treasure they are escorting must be delivered on time, or else it will be useless. The return journey is not easy, and he is not sure if they can return without Mr. Chu. Jiwen thought about what she had heard, because if the investigation was correct, the secret treasure they were accompanying this time was delivered to an insider. She wondered if it could be him. Shiyuan said that in that case, she couldn't force them to stay here, and asked what about Mr. Chu being their external defense expert, since he didn't need to be at their base to do that. He just has to help them if the base is in a life or death situation. Their Changfeng base is willing to pay 500,000 stones a year. Chumo replied that he would help Changfeng base even without such a status. After all, Changfeng base and Luoyang base are friendly neighbors, and if there is a danger that threatens Changfeng base, Luoyang base will also be in danger. Shiyuan said that it was just wonderful and that they would be happy to cooperate with him. Escorting the group to the exit of the city, Lao Shun wished them to arrive in one piece. Shiyuan told Lao Sun that it was amazing that Jade Trade Alliance could attract such a genius. Lao Sun replied that it was just like that because they carefully maintain relations with all countries, which is the most important thing in business. Suddenly, Xia Yuan grew gloomy and suggested that Lao Sun talk business. West Gate of Luoyang Base. Leader Mo met the group from their mission. She said that it was not an easy journey for them to Changfeng Base. Xianyun handed her the box and said that he was honored. Mo Shinshan said she finally got it, after which Mo Shinshan said that the Jade House had prepared rewards for them and Master Qin would send them to them later. And they had also prepared healing elixirs and provided free access to the healing garden so they could rest. Hearing this, the warriors cried out that Leader Mo was kindness itself and asked to call when she had a task for them again. When everyone was dispersing, Mo Shinshan asked for Chu Mo to wait for a while, after which they got into the car. Mo Shinshan said that she already knew what Chu Mo had done. She admitted that she didn't expect a ferocious beast like the White Weasel to die at his hands, but he was much stronger than she expected. Chu Mo said that Miss Mo was flattering him. Mo Shinshan said that she wanted to ask Chu Mo something. She asked if he wanted to know what kind of secret treasure they were accompanying. Chu Mo asked, "What is this?" And Chu Mo explained that it was the key to the secret world, the Manhwa disc. Changfeng Base Center. Lao Sun shouted out that he did not know, he really did not know what the Manhwa disc was. Lao Sun revealed that it was a secret treasure. It is an elixir with a limited time of use, and they are in a hurry to send it back to save lives, which is the reason why they were in such a hurry. And it has nothing to do with some Manhwa disc. Xi Yuan asked him not to worry so much. After all, she would need him. She recognized that the Jade Trading Alliance was well informed and had many experts, but they in Changfeng Base were not good at it either. After which she revealed that recently, when they were investigating the abnormal situation of ferocious beasts around Changfeng Base, they had accidentally discovered an energy fluctuation at the connection point between the mystical Wanghua realm and the modern world. While Mo Shinshan, a woman who wouldn't step a foot without gain, found herself at the connection point and desperate for a secret treasure with a limited shelf life, Ji Yuan asked if Changfeng Base might suspect something knowing all this, to which the latter replied that it's not like that. Ji Yuan said that they had known each other for a long time, and since they had made a deal, she would let him lose. They will only send a few people to the mystic realm, and it's up to them whether they can benefit from it or not. And Jade House's taxes will be reduced by 5% on all future Changfeng Base affairs. Hearing this, Lao Shun shrieked. He wanted to know if it was true. All this time, the mysterious cloaked figures had been watching them. They were interested in the mysterious Wanhua realm. 10 days later, Chu Mo's house. Chu Mo slashed his finger, after which a few drops of his blood floated up, after which he swung his hand directing the blood away. Then he punched through the wall of his house. Immediately after that, he ordered the blood to return, and it returned to his hand. Chu Mo completed the blood quenching. Qi and blood are like mercury, condensed and indestructible. This was all thanks to the blood-refining pill provided by Mo Shinshan. Otherwise, a single rhinoceros horn jade liquid was not enough for him to reach this level in just 10 days. Mo Shinshan told him that between Changfeng Base and Luoyang Base, there was a mysterious realm called Wanhua Realm. They discovered that the mysterious realm would reveal itself in a month, and this plate was the key to unlocking it. In the secret realm of the 10,000 Wonders, secret realm, only warriors below the warlord level could enter, while Chu Mo could only display the strength of a mid-level warrior. Therefore, she officially invited him to enter the mystic realm with her and help her find the Black Chalcedony Stone. Chu Mo squeezed his blood as he pondered over the fact that Mo Shinshan had promised that she only needed the Black Chalcedony Stone from this journey, and that she would not claim any other treasures. But in order to find it, he would need to survive, and only afterwards take it, which meant that he would have to hastily learn the last steps of a warrior. Just as suddenly, Chu Mo heard the wall crumble slightly at the point of his attack, and a box became visible in the hole. Chu Mo wondered what it was, and upon opening the box, he saw bottles, daggers, and a letter. Although he had accepted all the memories of the original Body Master, but he didn't have any memories of this box and crest, and so he decided to read the diary. The owner of the diary wrote that she was stuck at warrior level, and for some unknown reason she couldn't break through any further. He told her that they were the ones the world had abandoned, and that when more and more powerful beasts appeared and the realm level rose, they would not be able to survive. The work in the research lab isn't going well. They're lacking level 5 test beasts. Perhaps they should look for ferocious level 6 or even level 7 beasts. Little Mo is 15 years old, but he's an average person. It's all her fault. He was right. The physical physique is not only inherited, but there's a chance it will be weakened. According to rumors, a ferocious beast of the 7th level has appeared in Yaoxi's western forest. She must go there and check out the beast. At the end, the diary mistress asked Little Mo to let him wait for his mom and dad because they would definitely be able to change his physique and he would be able to train and even go beyond cultivation. Chu Mo wondered what the original body owner's mother had been working on and what kind of method of changing the body's constitution. It turned out that the hunt during which they died was for a level 7 beast, a ferocious beast that only existed in legends. Picking up the dagger, Chu Mo felt that it was extremely light and overpoweringly cold, almost weightless. This dagger was clearly not ordinary. Chu Mo decided to take this one to Miss Mo for evaluation, as the Jade House has great knowledge. 10 days later, Mo Shenshen asked, "Why hasn't Mr. Chu passed yet?" Susanna asked, "Is Miss Mo expecting Chu Mo alone?" After all, he was rumored to only have an average level of warrior. She wanted to know what was so special about him that made Madame Mo and their patriarch Xie Yuan look at him differently. Liao Yu asked her to be polite. After all, Mr. Chu had his own positive aspects. Just as suddenly, one of the guards said that Chu Mo was here, whereupon he walked out of the forest. Mo Shinshan tried to understand what was going on, for a different energy started to emanate from Chu Mo. Lo Yu warned Susanna not to dare to underestimate this person. Keep her thoughts to herself and do not make a scene. But Susanna only smiled. She was amazed by Chu Mo's aura, for such an aura could not be attained by any warrior. Mo Shinshan remarked that Chu Mo had once again managed to raise his level, to which Chu Mo replied that he retrieved something, after which he took out the daggers and asked Mo Shinshan to identify them. After examining the daggers, Mo Shinshan revealed that they were made from the alloy of the bones of a 4th-level beast, the ice crystal bird, making them very light. Weapons made of such materials are usually used as concealed weapons. There is almost no sound and has a hidden effect. Suzanne said that it looks like a level 4 weapon, which means that Chu Mo really has some abilities, which means that when they enter the mystic realm, she should find a chance to test his abilities. Liao Yu said that he knew her and that he didn't convince her, but their task was to gather as much information as possible in the mystic realm. Hence, he asked her not to put Chu Mo in trouble. Suddenly, Chu Mo felt a strange energy fluctuation. He suspected that it might be the entrance. Mo Shinshan shouted that the time had come and that they were ready to enter the mystic realm. When entering the mystic realm, random teleportation might happen, causing everyone's location to be different. So she would announce her location, and everyone would go to her as soon as they landed first. Mo Shinshan opened the box and the key flew up to the entrance. Immediately afterward, the passage began to open wider and wider. Without wasting any time, Chu Mo and the others jumped into the mystic realm. After the great change of heaven and earth, little worlds appeared from time to time in different parts of the blue star, which were called mystic realms because they were attached to the blue star and were usually hidden. Some of these mystic realms were rich in resources, with mountains, water, and life, and even ferocious beasts, as well as all sorts of heavenly treasures, while others were barren, with not a single blade of grass growing in them. The Manhwa mystic realm was one of those mystic realms that after decades of exploration by warriors, it was recognized as being rich in supplies. Just as Mo Shinshan said, Chu Mo appeared in a random place apart from everyone else. The unstable teleportation caused Chu Mo to feel terribly dizzy. After recovering a bit, he decided to do some reconnaissance before moving on. Chu Mo used spatial perception, through which he recognized that there was currently no danger around him. And besides, there were 500-year-old multicolored orchid and 300-year-old minmu grass around him. But with so many precious spiritual herbs within a radius of 50 meters, the concentration of spiritual power here was extraordinary. In a place with such great spiritual power, it would hardly be easy to deal with breeding beasts. Just as suddenly, Chu Mo heard a clap in the distance. It was a flash from the looks of it. The others had also arrived in this world and began to gather. Meanwhile, Mo Shinshan's group was surrounded by a pack of wolves. Slashing the wolf that attacked her, Mo Shinshan shouted to the others to be careful. Even though these beasts were second level, they were too many for them. The guards shouted that they understood and started fighting the wolves. Suddenly, one of the guards was bitten by a wolf, immediately after which he was rescued by his partner. But the second wolf had already jumped to him. The guard blocked the wolves with his shield and shouted that it wouldn't work that way, because there were too many wolves and it would be impossible for them to deal with all of them. Mo Shan asked them to hold on a little longer, as reinforcements would soon arrive. Suddenly, one of the guards shouted to Mrs. Mo to be careful, and turning around, Mo Shan saw a wolf's mouth in front of her. But in the next instant, the wolf was dissected. Mo Shan was overjoyed by Chumo's arrival, plus he had saved her at the last moment. She asked Chumo to be careful, for there were too many ferocious beasts here. Chumo asked her not to worry after all. He would have no problem dealing with some group of second-level beasts. Immediately after that, he unleashed his sword power, massacring all the wolves with lightning speed. At the same time, in the far side of the mysterious realm, the beast bowed before their master. The beast woke up as it felt someone enter the mysterious realm. Ki returned. After dealing with the wolves, Chumo felt something strange. He felt as if the life energy of the entire mysterious realm was slightly fluctuating. Chumo wondered, could it be because the talent had improved his perception of space? This mysterious realm makes him feel as if the space is very unstable and dangerous. The guards were shouting how amazing it was that one man was able to instantly deal with so many beasts. But even a warlord couldn't do such a thing. Mo Shan thanked Chumo for helping her, because otherwise there was no telling how many people might have died here. Chumo said that there was nothing wrong with that and asked if it was everyone who had arrived. Mo Shan said that 2 hours had already passed since the gathering signal was given, and a total of about 40 people had arrived, with the exception of the 2 from Changfeng base. Only the number of people they had now had gathered. Chumo asked if people were sent from Chumo's base to get the Black Chalcedony stone, to which Mo Shan replied that this was not the case. Changfeng base has been severely depleted recently. They are only here to gather resources and will not interfere with their operation. The danger level here was much higher than she expected, so they would have to shorten the time to gather resources and go straight to the Black Chalcedony stone. If Chumo decided to help her in her quest, she was willing to give half as compensation for the shortened exploration time. Chumo admitted that this mysterious realm gave him a bad feeling, and it wasn't just the ferocious beasts. From the looks of it, staying here would be deadly. Chumo said that he was thinking that they should get out of here as soon as possible and asked if the Black Chalcedony stone was that important. Mo Shan admitted that she thought he didn't care about the stone since Chumo didn't ask. To which Chumo replied that if the treasure was valuable, it was good if he didn't know about it, because in that case, he wouldn't get greedy. But now things have changed, and he thinks that they need to evaluate if it's worth risking people. Mo Shan revealed that the Black Chalcedony stone was a precious treasure of heaven and earth, allowing warriors to break the boundaries of their level and gain a stronger foundation. For example, if it was a warrior at peak level, his strength would be no more than 2,001. However, the Black Chalcedony stone will allow him to overcome his limit and gain a strength of 3,000 wallers or even 4,000. This meant that he would have a higher growth limit in the future. Mo Shan asked Chumo, "Is it worth risking for something like this?" Chumo immediately realized that it was worth it. He had the talent and ability to strengthen given by the gathering system, and the stronger his base strength, the stronger the strengthening power would be. Chumo said that they needed to go in search of Chalcedony as soon as possible, and the sooner they could manage it, the better. Mo Shan took out Manhwa's disc and told him that he could find the center of earth veins and the gathering place of life force in the mystic realm. Such a place is the best environment for the growth of Black Chalcedony stones. The beast felt the heavy breathing of the key and where it was, and so he ordered his servant to bring him the key. After a while, Chumo and Mo Shan's group were walking towards the direction of the key. Suddenly, they heard the rearmost warrior scream because he was injured. Chumo ordered everyone to group together, for they were being attacked by a beast. As Mo Shan suddenly noticed that a black haze started to come out from the warrior's wound, she advised everyone to be careful as the beast was poisonous. Chumo noticed a winged silhouette in the air, heading in his direction. And as soon as that one approached, Chumo swung his sword and knocked the beast to the ground. Chumo was amazed at the toughness of this beast's flesh. Its strike could cut through alloys, but it was unable to pierce through the hide. The beast barked in pain. It turned out to be a ferocious second-level golden-winged poison fox beast. Everyone was surprised by this news, as golden-winged foxes are known as solitary animals, but there are many of them here. The guards began to fight the golden-winged foxes. They tried to avoid being hit by their poisonous claws, but they were also unable to penetrate the hide. Mo Shanshan thought about the fact that these beasts, just like the past ones, although they are at the second level, but their strength and speed are far superior to the second-grade beasts. Suddenly, Chumo heard some kind of voice, the one as if it was conveying instructions. Suddenly, another beast jumped out from the ground right in front of Mo Shanshan, immediately after which the latter snatched Wanhua's disc from Mo Shanshan's hands. Mo Shanshan started swinging her blade trying to retrieve the disc from the beast's mouth, but it was too fast. As he was suddenly picked up by the golden-winged poison fox, which surprised Mo Shanshan, for he suddenly began to cooperate with the lizard. Suddenly, Chumo appeared above the fox. He asked if they were trying to escape. Immediately afterward, he kicked the fox on the back, causing him to fall to the ground. After returning to the ground, Chumo immediately threw the disc to Mo Shanshan. Mo Shanshan shrieked that the beasts were here for the Wanhua disc, and that in that case she had a plan. They should team up. Chumo asked Mo Shanshan to be careful, for the beasts are guided by something. Chumo speculated that it might be some sort of spiritually intelligent beast. It was rumored that in order to be considered intelligent, a beast must reach at least the 5th level. In that case, Chumo decided to take a look around the surroundings. After searching for a bit, Chumo noticed one of the beasts hiding behind the trees, after which he moved thanks to the spatial rift to the beast's back. Chumo slashed at the beast, but the beast managed to block it with his paw. Chumo felt as if the beast had human features. The beast decided to attack Chumo with a swing of its arm, but Chumo dodged it and broke the distance. This beast is intelligent and has humanoid traits. Although this beast should be level 5, but its attack power is less than level 3. As soon as Chumo rushed towards the beast, it suddenly flew into the air. Chumo asked where he was trying to go and jumped out of the rift right in front of the beast. Immediately afterward, he chopped the beast, knocking it to the ground, and used the power of his sword to finish him off. Only after this strike did Chumo manage to overpower the beast. In order to pierce it, Chumo needed the striking power of 10,000 swords combined into one. The physical strength of this beast was close to the 5th level, which was very strange. Mo Shanshan ran up to Chumo and said that the beasts here were too strange, and that it was good since he was here, because otherwise they would have failed. Chumo said that they are really strange because they show contradictory characteristics, so they need to check the life force in his body first. Only Chumo reached for the beast as he suddenly sensed danger, and at the last moment, Chumo and Mo Shanshan managed to dodge the warrior's strike. Mo Shanshan asked the warrior what he was doing, but the warrior attacked them again. Chumo noticed that although this warrior was at the peak of a warrior, his attack power was approaching that of a warlord. Chumo repelled the warrior's attack before throwing the one back. Chumo assumed that the enemy's target was the corpse of the leader of the golden-winged poison foxes. But since that was the case, was there any mystery to it? The warrior pounced at Chumo once again and swung his axe at him. Chumo blocked the traitor's attack and used the doubling power from the thunder talent. Immediately afterward, he leapt through the warrior, damaging him. The warrior dropped his broken axe and said it was close. After all, he almost died at the hands of a man. Seeing this warrior's face, Chumo was astonished. This warrior's aura was definitely human, but it was surprisingly similar to that of a beast. At the same moment, Mo Shanshan killed one of the beasts, immediately after which she shouted to Chumo to deal with them since they were not the people of the Jade House. Suddenly, several arrows flew out from behind the trees, which Chumo and Mo Shanshan were successfully able to dodge. The gunslinger seized the moment to grab 2 of his allies and escaped with them in a flash. Mo Shanshan told Chumo that it was a spatial prop that could accidentally teleport, and they escaped. All 3 of them were her acquaintances from the Jade House, but she doesn't know when they managed to be switched. Chumo wondered what was the secret behind this golden-winged fox corpse, since those 3 had worked so hard just to get it. Meanwhile, the warriors from Changfeng Base were gathering valuable ingredients. Liu Yu said that they had gotten to a really worthwhile place, for this 400-year-old herb was worth 100,000 stones. Susanna remarked that this place was too abnormal, because they met too few beasts on their way. Liu Yu asked if it would be better if they met as few beasts as possible, because that way they could focus on resources. Just as suddenly, Suzanne heard footsteps, and lowering Liu Yu lower, she asked him to be quieter. Suzanne and Liu Yu saw 3 people from Mo Shanshan's group complaining about something. One of them started to take off his mask, complaining that dealing with Mo Shanshan was harder than he thought. After all, not only did they fail to capture the body, but they were exposed trying to save them. Susanna was astonished when she saw his face, for it was Yu from Patriarch Yehua's team. Susanna asked if all of Yehua's attendants had not all gone with the Patriarch to investigate the movement of ferocious beasts, and Liao Yu asked why they were wearing the clothes of the Jade House. Yu asked the warrior to forget about it, because apparently there was more than one special beast in this mysterious realm, so they should first track down one and then go back to find Mo Shinshin. The warrior reminded that their goal was to find what Mo Shinshin had come to this realm for, not the ferocious beast. After all, because of that beast, their identity had been revealed and they were now at a disadvantage. Niyu asked that one not to worry, for the value of that strange beast far exceeded what Mo Shinshin was looking for in the minds of their higher-ups. Meanwhile, Mo Shinshin examined the beast and agreed with Chumo's words. Although this beast is at the 2nd level, but the physical strength and evolutionary characteristics are at the 5th level. Chumo asked the managers if she remembered that only warriors below the warlord level could enter the mysterious realm. After all, he had a hunch that the level restriction did not only apply to them, but also to the beasts, as their level was also below the 2nd level. Mo Shinshin asked, how could beasts be restricted if beasts in mysterious realms usually feed on the energy of the realm? Chumo admitted that he didn't know this, but this mystical realm held too many secrets. Chumo suggested that Leader Mo should hurry up and find the black chalcedony stones as soon as possible, because the sooner they got it, the sooner they could calm down. After a while, Wanhua's disc led them to a cave. Mo Shinshin asked the warriors to stand outside while she and Chumo explored the cave. As they advanced through the cave, Chumo noticed that they did not encounter any insects, snakes, or bats along the way, and the life force flowed deep within like a flowing river. Mo Shinshin cried out that it was in front. Then they passed into the cave where all the life force flowed. Mo Shinshin said that this was what they had come here for, a black chalcedony stone. While Mo Shinshin was looking at the chalcedony, Chumo counted that there were 10 of them in total. After which, Mo Shinshin said that if it wasn't for his escort, she wouldn't have been able to obtain the black chalcedony stone, and therefore, as agreed, 5 of the stones were now his. Chumo thanked the manageress and said that he would take it as a compliment. He thought that 5 chalcedony stones would be enough to increase his current physical strength by at least 100,000. Chumo asked the managers if she thought that the life force gathering point was not in the cave, but in those stones. To which she replied that chalcedony must grow in the center of the Earth's veins and in the place where the life force gathers. And therefore she inquired, how could there not be a gathering point for the life force here? Mo Shinshin told me that although it was surprising, it was true. Only a small amount of life force is collected in Chalcedony, and the rest. Chumo said that the rest was going to be gathered here and touch the wall. Just as there is a place where 10,000 years of spiritual essence is hidden, there is also a place hidden by a natural barrier. Mo Shinshin immediately recognized the natural barrier and said that there were probably secret treasures hidden behind it, and since they were here, they should enter and explore. Chumo and Mo Shinshin went through the barrier to the other side. Just as suddenly, Chumo sensed something and asked Mo Shinshin to be more careful. Right after that, they began to be hindered by the hurricane-like streams of life force in the air. Mo Shinshin shouted that it was a border spring stone. A border treasure stone is a spiritual treasure that can accompany the birth or destruction of a small world, containing the origins of that world and allowing one to realize a change in space. Mo Shinshin asked Chumo if he had a spatial talent, because earlier she had noticed him using it during the battle with the golden-winged foxes. Chumo explained that it was simply an inferior talent that he had not yet mastered. Mo Shinshin recognized that having a dual talent in Chumo was simply amazing. Space and time talents are legendary supreme talents. Hence, it was unexpected that Chumo's talents had already reached the 2nd level. She wondered if this meant that he could possess dual skills of transformation and perception. She was glad that the Jade Alliance had contacted Chumo so early. Mo Shinshin explained that the closer they get, the stronger it becomes, causing any creature approaching it to be destroyed. There is only half a meter around the boundary stone where there are no life energy hurricanes. Since it can't be reached without the spatial transferability, it will belong to Chumo. Chumo thanked the manageress for her modesty, after which she explained that if someone who did not possess spatial talent used the border source stone, the chance of obtaining spatial talent would be lower than 1,000th. but those with spatial talent could use it to improve their talent by 100%. And as she had said before, she would give Chumo all the treasures except for the black chalcedony stone. Chumo used the spatial rift to move to the boundary source stone, but as soon as he grabbed it, Chumo saw a terrifying beast towering above the others. Mo Shan congratulated Chumo on receiving the border spring stone, after which Chumo told her that once he obtained the boundary spring stone, he felt as if he had realized the secret of this mysterious realm. The advancement of the ferocious beast absorbs a lot of the mysterious realm's life force, causing it to be about to collapse. So the ferocious beast can only be forcibly suppressed up to the second level of a warrior, but they cannot be suppressed any further. Mo Shan realized that, to put it another way, the ferocious beasts here were indeed of the 5th level of strength. Chumo told leader Mo that they had better absorb the black chalcedony stones here to maximize their strength. Firstly, it was because this place was inside the barrier created by the boundary stone, and it wasn't easy to attack. Secondly, they will definitely face a tough battle due to breaking through the physical limits, but not breaking through outside the realm is the best way to cultivate. But this proposal requires them to trust each other, and therefore if Manager Mo might find it inconvenient, Chumo remembered that refining was usually a secluded activity, which meant he was being presumptuous. Mo Shan said that of course she trusted him, and that he could do what needed to be done. A short while later, Chumo came out of cultivation. Chumo asked the system to display the stats and saw that his physical strength was 2701, but due to the destruction of the physical limit, the strength could be increased to 5,000 special zorns, while the attribute strength is 8786 euro and can be boosted to 2,000 zorn. After this kind of attribute enhancement, even a warlord-level warrior, nothing can compare to him. Since they still had time, Chumo decided to use the boundary spring stone and see how it would improve his talent. Taking the stone in his hands, Chumo thought about how he should use the item, but in the end, he assumed that he just needed to activate it with energy. As soon as he used the energy, the boundary source stone glowed and transported him to some space. Just as suddenly, the starlight of space began to swiftly flow into Chumo's body. Waking up, Chumo wondered what had just happened. All that starlight flowed into his body. The stone of the boundary stone was covered in cracks, immediately after which it began to shatter into pieces. Chumo summoned the system unit to check the changes. Spatial perception was now effective within 100 meters, and he had also mastered space transference, capable of creating a space to carry, leaving a trace of space on his body. Chumo expected the radius of perception to increase, but space transference was something interesting. Taking advantage of the spatial talent, Chumo created a spatial imprint on his hand. He then tried to infuse a spatial energy into the imprint, creating a cubic space. With his current realm and level of spatial talent, Chumo was only able to infuse a certain amount of spatial energy. Even so, almost 20 cubic meters of space was very good. In the future, as the realm and talent increases, the space will also increase. Suddenly, Mo Shan shrieked in joy. She had just surpassed the physical limit of a warrior. She will now be able to ascend another Hanshination, allowing her to reach the level of a warlord with a physical strength of 3,000 Hans. Chumo congratulated the manageress, causing her to blush, surprised that he was here now. Chumo explained that he had woken up a little earlier than her and had been here the whole time, to which Mo Shan replied that she hadn't noticed him at all. It was probably because she was too engrossed in perfecting herself. It was very strange, but even now she felt an ethereal atmosphere emanating from him. If he hadn't spoken to her, she wouldn't have even reacted. Chumo suggested that it was due to the absorption of the boundary source stone. This stone has the same origin as the mysterious realm, and now it has the aura of that realm. It was as if the stones and air here made it difficult to detect. Mo Shan said, if this is really the case, then... Suddenly, a rumbling sound was heard from outside, causing Chumo and Mo Shan to wonder what was going on in there. Meanwhile, the ferocious beasts attacked the warriors from Mo Shan's group. One of the warriors missed a hit and suffered a shoulder injury. His partner asked if he was okay as suddenly another beast crept up behind them. But a moment before the wolf reached them, Chumo used the sky-shattering blade. The warriors were happy that Counselor Mo had finally returned. Plus, he had become even stronger. Chumo attacked the ferocious beast, and with a single strike, he managed to chop it in two. Immediately afterwards, several more beasts pounced on him, but Chumo used the spatial rift to move upwards. Immediately afterward, he dealt with the remaining wolves in one go. The warriors wondered if Counselor Mo was this strong before. Madam had said that he was the strongest warrior in the world, but that seemed like an exaggeration before. Mo Shinshan recognized that Chumo simply had terrifying potential, as he was only getting stronger with every battle. Just as suddenly, Chumo heard a loud footstep, and turning around, he saw the leader of those ferocious beasts. The leader of the ferocious beasts demanded that Chumo give him the key that their king needed. Well, friends, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed this manhwa. The plot itself is quite interesting and intriguing. So if you liked the video, then subscribe to the channel and write a comment on what exactly you liked. And for a new part of this work, let's collect 1,000 likes under this video. All the best. See you soon.